Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is lovely to be back with all of you. It is March the 12th, 2026. It is another wonderful day to be on planet Earth. If you look around a little bit, I got to start the show right. For anybody who was there Monday night, they know what happened. I know how. My microphone cables came somewhat loose, and I didn't realize it. And I also had my monitor window covering the chat, so my chat wasn't fully updated to the most recent messages because I was still catching up on questions. So I didn't notice that I was muted for like 8 minutes until my wonderful producer texted me directly to tell me. So, first things first on the show today, I got a roll of electrical tape, and we're going to tape the microphone cable into the microphone. I just realized I don't think I have a pair of scissors down here. This will probably work. So we're going to do this. Welcome to the show. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Here in southern Ontario, we got a rainstorm that was quite something. Is that enough? And it woke me up the other day, and it was pouring, and apparently it was supposed to freeze, but it didn't. Oh my god, have I ever cut something before? There. Alright, now we're talking. Okay. Huh? Okay, we're getting there. I probably should have done this in segments, but whatever. It's too late now. As long as we're taped on there we go. No more problems. We're not allowed to have any more screw-ups. The cable is now secured in place, unless I secured it in a manner in which it caused it to be muted again, which it does not look like thanks to my monitor. But anyway, I appreciate every single person who yelled and screamed at me with no results that I was muted Monday night for about the length of a long, typical popular song, which is pretty impressive in terms of a fail on my part. But we're going to avoid this from now on, so that's great. Yes, I know you messaged me on Discord. That is true as well. And I mean, when I'm on the stream, I don't have my Discord going really, so I didn't see that either. But we will try to do better, right? We're going to try to do better. Anyway, welcome to the show. It's lovely to be here. It's an exciting time of the year with the NHL trade deadline over. All the dust is settling. NHL fans, I think, are starting to realize the writing on the wall. So I hope that over the next little while, we start to see more people coming here, welcoming them into the sphere, prepping them for the 2026 draft in Buffalo. And it's gonna be it's an interesting time. For me personally, some housekeeping. We have a video room that I put up for subscribers today, so it's visible. If you are a member of the Discord server, you can see it in there. We just put out a video room on Victor Eklund that came out the other day. Also, if you haven't already, you should check out the game tape with Tynan Lawrence, a very interesting player and a very interesting case study. A very interesting case study and a very interesting player for this year's draft, where lots and lots has been said about him, and we managed to sit down with him, and that was great. And I think you can maybe see for yourself part of the reasons why we all remain pretty big fans of him here. If you're Scouch pilled. Who have we looked at recently? Also, I will pull up a list here of guys that we've taken a look at over the last few days. I know also members of the Discord server, I've been really, really, really bad with providing my little reports, if that's something you care about reading. But I will be updating that eventually. But I'm trying to remember, where did we leave off here? I feel like it was, before all this. After those guys. I don't know. I'll just start from wherever and go from there. William Hokinson, Jack Hextall, Daxon Rudolph, Liam Ruck, Adam Valentini, Thomas Franco, Casey Mutrin, Alex Command, Simon Katalichki, Logan Stewart, Chase Reid, Keaton Verhoff, Tynan Lawrence, Mathis Preston, Lincoln Keane, Malcolm Yastreen, Adam Anderson, Yelisei Ryabikin, who was a recommendation from somebody in the server. Shout out, Mark. Found an interesting one, maybe. Ryan Lynn, Alexander Grunine, and Ryan Rubrick was the last one we did. That doesn't feel right. I feel like, no, it is the right one. That is where we ended yesterday. It was Ryan Rubrick. So we're going to have another big one tomorrow. Lots of names for me to get through. So that can only mean one thing. At some point this month, probably at the end of the month, I'll be putting out a ranking. I feel relatively comfortable-ish with where the top group is going, is sitting, and where they're headed, and kind of like that. So now last night I was actually talking to a different member of the community who works elsewhere in the world of hockey, and it was we were talking about like how now, for me at least right now, is the phase where it's like I look at my list and I go, all right, I've seen enough of this player X. Is there ever going to be a time in the draft, realistically speaking, where I'm going to be like, yes, this is the guy that I want, and I'm excited to pick them up? And if the answer to that question at this point in time is no, then they're not on the list. And so we're trimming things a little bit. We're trying to concentrate the list a little bit, boil it down, which is always sort of the ultimate goal of all of this. Make sure the watch list guys are watch list guys and not guys I want to rank and all that stuff. And so we're getting to that point really quick. By the end of the month, we're gonna have a new ranking out, and it's gonna be really cool. I hope. I can't wait for the yelling and screaming that I'll get from people, because it's already. I mean, you can tell from looking at it, but a little bit spicy. But yes, AJ, we're trimming the fat, so to speak. The fattest players get removed from the list. But yeah, so did that for a bit last night, just bumping around on a few other players, which was a much more productive use of my time than playing Slay the Spire 2, which has consumed my life in a manner I have not experienced since EU4. I will also use my very limited but passionate platform to advocate against the changes that Epic Games is putting into Fortnite, making everything more expensive pretty much to pay the bills, even though it's like the most profitable video game ever made. A little upset, a little bit annoyed, and my money going to them might drop to zero from here on until some stuff changes. So there's that. But yeah, so we're getting down to that point, really starting to hammer into the short list for team Scouching this year. Really want to make sure I sort of hammer in the guys that I want in there. And now that Toronto has added a whole lot of picks, but like not good ones, it's looking a little strange. There's a lot of names on there where I'm going, sure, So anyway, here we are, So it's good times. Obviously, the title of the show and everything obviously is taken from Corey Bronman's most recent work. And I say this all the time about Bronman and what he puts out there. I read it all the time. I try to flip through it, whenever I can, and I think my hunch is that over the years it's become more of a. He's kind of got his ear to the ground of what the NHL is actually seriously thinking, and judging by who's on the list, I can fully believe it, based on who is where and everything like that. So that said, though, he did put Chase Reid at number 1, so we put him front and center for the thumbnail today. That is a hot take. That is a wild take. I've noted that you don't hear very many people saying that he's putting Chase Reid at number 1 just to get attention. So interesting that's what's happening. But at the end of the day, I mean, look, he was the one that called Slavkovsky going 1. He was the one that called Shane Wright going 4. He's been ahead of the curve on a whole lot of stuff, and I get the feeling that he may very well be onto something here. So we'll see what happens. And when I flip through it, I go, yep, I could see how an NHL team would do this and this and this and this and this, right? So anyway. Exciting times though. And if we want to go through it, in more detail, we certainly can. But let's start catching up on this chat here. Let's see what we've got. Apparently AJ wants everybody to stop bullying him about the Leafs, but I don't advocate for that. I think we should keep bullying him about the Leafs, because when the Leafs are pathetic, things are always funnier. Look, I don't like seeing teams struggle, but when it's kind of obviously self-inflicted, it's a little different. A little bit self-inflicted by the team up the road from where I live. It's always entertaining for me. If the Leafs lose tonight and the Sabres win, they'll meet on Saturday. Both teams on 9-game streaks. I don't know what kind of streaks. I know that'll be Buffalo's 9th win. But Toronto has won a game, right? They're 2-6-2 in their last 10. They're on a 3-game losing streak. I believe there was a shootout win in there or something, wasn't there? Anyway, but I see your point. I also did not realize that Toronto is now second last in the Eastern Conference. That is wild. That is not something I expected. Luckily for Toronto, or I don't know what you want to call it. I don't know what adverb you want to use. But there's quite a few teams between them and the bottom of the league. And while they might still get there, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of teams for them to leapfrog downwards. What's the opposite of leapfrog? To trip over, or to be passed by, I suppose. Anywho, the Toronto Maple Leafs having a bad time, really bad time, and here we are. Yeah, well, the World Baseball Classic is a thing that's going on right now, and I actually, another thing I did before I went to bed last night, because I was watching some of the highlights from some of the games. I'm not much of a baseball fan. I bandwagon the Blue Jays when they make the playoffs. I'm unashamedly doing that whenever that happens. Obviously, because I went to a World Series game last fall. But I think it's so funny that the World Baseball Classic is almost all American players. Like, there's the Canadian team, and there's obviously like the Japanese and the Venezuelans and Dominicans and stuff, but like it feels like half the teams in the World Baseball Classic are from like Brooklyn or like Montana, and it's like, oh, my dad was British, so I'm going to play for the Great Britain team. And I think that's hilarious. You know, it makes me wonder what an American football world championship would look like. Because that would also be very, very funny. But Canada baseball is through to the playoff round, so that's great. I did see the highlights of that game against Cuba last night, and wow, I mean, Cuba had a bad night, man. They kind of fell apart there, so I'm sure Canada doesn't mind, and the great baseball nation of Canada is through to the next round. Toronto after they lose for the rest of the year, they accept a 1-for-1 McTavish for Matthews. Exactly. Now we're talking. McTavish for Carlo, who says no? Oh God, this is already off the rails here. Yeah, McTavish for Danford so they can be reunited. There we go. Mason McTavish in Toronto for Brad Treliving does make a lot of sense, you know. From what you remember of them pre-draft, what is allowing Huznadinov to have NHL success and Fabian Lysell yet to crack the same roster, same profile of small, speedy, and skilled? I think that the profile-ish is kind of similar, but Huznadinov, I think, is... I mean, number one, with Lysell, there's other factors at play that I think are getting in his own way, especially this preseason. There were things that, you know, when I was having talks with people, it's like there was a bit of, you know, maybe he expected to make the team and didn't because his preseason wasn't great. And I mean, I watched a bit of him with the Bruins down the stretch last year. I think he should be given a look in the NHL and in a good position to put some points on the board and everything, because I still think he's a very valuable player. But you know, there is a you know, the Bruins. I actually asked some people who would know about, and this is something that's fascinated me for years, right? And I've said this about the Sabres before in a different way, but I asked about the Bruins and I was like, oh, what is going on there, do you think, that like changes things in the right direction, or where nobody gave them the time of day going into the year, and now they are a playoff team? Yeah, barely. They might make the playoffs this year. And what I got from a number of different people was like, they have recaptured a culture that they find very, very important and valuable in Boston, that has always been a solution for them. And all the guys buy, and when all the guys buy in, then the team gets better. And if they feel like the mix is not right and there are guys that are on the outside looking in because they don't fit that sort of idea or culture, they're not going to play them. And so you can put 2 and 2 together on that. Do I think a guy like Liesel, I don't think he'll be like a guy that's put on waivers next year by Boston, because he'll be eligible for that, I think. And if will he? I don't think he will. I don't remember. But either way, I don't know if he, the thing is too, he doesn't play that bottom 6 style that the Bruins clearly like to have in the lineup. He's too small, not strong enough, I don't think. And he is one of these players that I think it's like the limit on his game right now is one of the hardest things for young players in the NHL to figure out, from my experience, which is knowing when to make a play, when to keep the game simple, and when to just play the game. Like, just play the frickin' game and don't try to do too much yourself. Don't try to be a hero, and don't waste your opportunities. And I find that Liesel is often a guy who does that, and I don't think that's the case with Kuznetsov. I think Kuznetsov is exactly who the Bruins are looking for as a player, and I remember saying that when he was picked up by them. I thought that was an amazing pickup for them, and he's turned out really well for them. So with Kuznetsov, there at the time when he was drafted, I mean, he was playing Russian junior hockey, but there was a lot of efficiency in his game. There was a lot of physicality and energy, and he just played like a guy that you want to share the ice with. And I think that to a certain extent that's true with Liesel, outside of the whole being deferential with the puck, moving the puck effectively, playing with line mates, and being sort of a team guy. Individually, super, super talented. It's just a matter of like how far can he take his own game and work with others. And the last thing I'll say is, like, when he was drafted, I asked around a little bit about him because he went later than I had him and most people had him. And it's like, there's a big difference between him as a hockey player and him as a person that I think teams were really scared of. And the Bruins took a swing on him, and I'm sure they still believe in him. And he's been good for Providence this year. And it's not over, but there's definitely a different side of Kuznetsov that is very different from that, and has always been different, that, you just knew that at the very least Kuznetsov could be a third line center in the NHL, and a pretty good one, at least one that I would want on my team. NCAA season, signing season, any undrafted free agents you like? I like that Abbotsford got Bennett Shimmick out of ASU. I think he's a good player. I would be very interested. I don't know if I would sign him this year, but I would definitely be picking up the phone and calling Johnny Hicks and his family advisor, or whatever you want to call it, and going, hey, you want to come to camp? And if you ever want to sign an NHL deal, please don't sign with anyone but me. As a goaltender, I'd be like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll take a chance on that guy, because he has been outstanding for Denver. And the game I did this week of Lincoln Keene was against Denver, and Hicks was amazing in that game. It's just too bad he's 5'10", so it's never going to work. But I wouldn't draft a player like that, but for a guy who is that good in net this season, I'll take the chance on him. But other than that, I mean, usually there's not a ton of NCAA free agents that I'm super into. I've always kind of liked Alex Gaffney, but that's probably an AHL guy. I do really like Dylan Herkovian, and I don't know if he is going back to university. He could. So he could go back for one more year, but that's a guy that I've always really, really liked. And that's probably a guy I'd be picking up the phone on too. Evan Werner. Evan Werner's been a guy that I've always loved. He's always been to me like discount Cole Caulfield. Like, that's kind of how I've always felt about him. Just a electrifyingly skilled guy who is on Notre Dame and probably leading their team in scoring. Yeah, he's leading the team in scoring, and the 5 guys after him are all NHL draftees. Sutter Mazzatti, who just got traded today, Cole Knuble, Danny Nelson, Paul Fisher, and Cole Brown. And Evan Werner tops them all. That's a guy I probably would be on the phone with, trying to bring him somewhere, and maybe an AHL deal. Even, he's already 23. Like, he's pretty far gone down the development pipeline. So, but it would be more of a sign him and see where it goes. Who else is on this list here? I don't know. There's not a ton. There's not a ton this year. I'm trying to think of like any defenseman that I've seen. I mean, Tyler Duke is the guy that has been in Michigan now for 4 years, I think, so he's probably done. And that's a guy that I would be giving a chance to, because I've always loved him. He's a team scouting guy, and I watched him earlier this year, and I still think he's a really underrated defenseman that can just drive really efficient results. And if you sort of set aside the fact that he's 5'10 or 5'11 or whatever it is, he just has a really, really efficient game with really good fundamentals. But yeah, I don't know. There's not a ton of them, just a small handful. If you're Washington and drafting at 29 with the Ducks pick at the Don Carlson trade, who are you taking? I don't know. I mean, again, like 28 guys have to go off the board. But realistically speaking, like if a Mathis Preston is there and I'm Washington, that's the easiest pick I've ever made in my life. I think that is a no-brainer, because I think if any team is going to be able to get in his head and set him straight and set him right at 29th overall, him and Logan Lakovich on the same team, and you find a center that can just play in between those guys, you are laughing. I think that is a no-brainer. So that's the one that I'm going, yes, that's the guy. And if not him, you know, maybe if an Xavier Villeneuve is on the list, something like that. Because I think he could also work in Washington. And I mean, a 1-2 punch on your lineup of Hudson and Villeneuve down the line, first pair, second pair or something, is very scary to me, let alone on the power play. You could go a number of directions, I think, if you're Washington in that range. That's kind of the good thing about this draft, is like very, very quickly things really open up really, really fast, and there's a lot of good players that are available all over the place, and you could do some damage no matter what. But if Mathis Preston's on the board, that's the one I'm pushing for. Now the Buffalo are 29-5-2 in their last 36 games. That's insane. I'm looking at the bottom of the first round to see who the Sabres might select. Which players would you suggest might be typical Yarmo picks? I don't know, because it's a different scouting staff, right? Like, I don't think judging from how Columbus drafted under Yarmo and knowing what I know about Jarmo Kekalainen, I think he kind of defers a lot to the scouting staff. And I think he knows, from being in Buffalo for years now, he also knows that that's kind of what they seem to have done a lot. And knowing some of the people who work in Buffalo, I think that they are smart enough to, definitely smart enough to like kind of control the ship a little bit. You know, they're good. They're this good, and they have a lot of young guys that they've drafted in the lineup, and they're this good for, I mean, partially because of that. But at the end of the day, I think if I'm Buffalo, I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, if I think about it and look at my list, I mean, at the end of the first round, guys who are realistic, like maybe Casey Mutrin might scratch his itch. Jackson Cover, or I don't know, Ben Macbeth. I don't know. Like there's a lot of options, I think. It's hard to say, because so much can happen at the draft that is very strange, right? Like last year, Calgary snagged one of my favorite guys in the draft at like 30, you know? So if I sit here and I go, oh yeah, like, yeah, I don't know. I could say anything, and anything could be possible. But like, I don't know. If a Wyatt Cullen for some reason is available there, that could be possible. But it seems like people have kind of figured him out a little bit. They've kind of got on the same page a little bit, or a similar page to me. Anyway, good player. Play Bjork? Yeah, exactly. She has some great albums, man. Bjork is good. What do you think of Ottawa being guaranteed to win the Stanley Cup drafting 32nd? I mean, it just goes to show how rigged the NHL is, right? They just turn around and they go, yeah, Ottawa Senators are going to win the Stanley Cup this year. I mean, it would be really funny if it turned out that Ottawa somehow managed to work their way into winning the Stanley Cup this year. You know, they're not in a playoff spot. They're 5 points back. But, hey, you've got 18 games left. If they win all 18, they'll be in the playoffs, and they're 6-2-2 in their last 10. So if they never lose again, then it doesn't matter. They get their first round pick back, and they won the Stanley Cup, so that's good. But if anyone doesn't know, because of the Evgeny Dadonov no trade clause but debacle from a few years ago, Ottawa had their first round pick reinstated, but they will pick 32nd instead of being a lottery pick. And if they win the lottery, they are redoing the draw. So Ottawa will still be in the lottery, but if they win, they're going to do it again, which is hilarious to me. Thank you for boycotting Fortnite. You're welcome. I personally love Fortnite because it's easy to pick up. You do your daily quests, you go to bed. You know, that's my routine. It's you go in there, maybe you win a couple, you just have some fun. It's pretty laid back. You know, the skins are fun, and the I guess you could say role playing. You know, where you're like, oh, I'm Goku from Dragon Ball Z, and I just shot Rick from Rick and Morty in the head with a rifle, and it's hilarious. You know, like that's hilarious, and at least to me. But it is very annoying having the developers go, we don't have enough money, so we're going to jack up the prices on currency. And if you're a subscriber to our monthly program, of which I am, you are also going to pay more and you're going to get less. And it's like, well, all right, so you hit me with both fists. I think I'm good until they back down, which has happened before, right? Developers have come up with very stupid ideas and then walk them back once the people go, I literally will not go along with this, and instead you're going to get less money out of me, right? So, solidarity, I guess. The Canucks fan in me would die for a Stenberg Bjork first round. Fair enough. Who are your top 5 prospects outside the NHL? Very good question. Let's take a look. Outside the NHL, probably. I don't think it'll be in any particular order, and I'm just looking at this live. But I would probably throw. Damn, Cullen Potter was having a good season before he got hurt, man. That sucks. Like, really good. Okay, all right. Let's go with. Honestly, from what I've seen this week, I'll throw Cole Hudson in there. Probably the 2 Djurgården guys, Eklund and Frondell. Martone. Did you ask for 5? Right? It was 5, I think. Let me look. Yeah, 5. I mean, I guess you would. Well, I'm not going to count guys who haven't been drafted yet, like this year's draft. I mean, I guess you could throw Stenberg and McKenna somewhere in there. So maybe not. I don't know. Who would I rather? Yeah. Probably drop Eklund, but Hudson, Frondell, Hagens, McKinnon, Stenberg, I guess. Something like that. If we're including undrafted players. It's a good question, though. There's a lot of good ones floating around out there. All of your favorite players. That's who it is. All your favorite players. Welcome, Josh. It's good to have you here. A week ago, you scoffed at the idea of Rudolph versus Ryabik, and now what do you have to say for yourself? Exactly. Yeah, Mark is here. He's the guy who brought up Yelisei Ryabikian of Dynamo Moscow. And he was really good, man. That's a defenseman that I had low expectations for, but interesting player, extremely good skater, really active defender, pretty good passer too. I think in the game we tracked together yesterday, he had 8 slot passes, which for a defenseman, even for a forward, that's insane. So kind of funny. And yeah, Jacob Fowler, crazy night last night. That was pretty cool. We're now on to Lynn versus Reid Beacon. I mean, Lynn, the game we did of Lynn, and I don't think you were there for that one, but he was really good. Ryan Lynn, I finally saw him since coming back from injury, and he looked awesome. Really, by far, the best game I've seen of him this year. I still have concerns, but he shot up my list quite a bit after that because I went, okay, like there's definitely, it was kind of like Malhotra, where it's like there are things in his game where I go, yes, I want this. Yes, I want this to be a thing, and there's definitely a good player in a lot of areas of the game, and that automatically vaults him to a certain point on the list. And I would be willing to take the gamble on him, even though he has, I think, some downside. Kind of like hockey in the... Oh, is that the World Baseball Classic? Hockey in the Olympics for some teams? Yeah, I mean, it's true. I get it, and I get it, because obviously, like, there are sports that aren't global. It's pretty rare to have a sport that's truly global. You know, I think soccer, you could argue, or football, I should say, football, is the only really global sport. So you kind of have to, if you want to do a big international tournament, you have to figure it out and go from there. But yeah, it was kind of funny seeing like Jake Chelios playing on the Chinese national hockey team. No, that's pretty fun. Lots of jewelry in baseball. I don't get it, but whatever. Hey man, accessorizing is important, says a guy who the only accessories I wear are a smartwatch and glasses. I have never gone any more than that. Much to my mother once in a while will purchase me accessories. And I appreciate the gifts very much, but I just never find myself going, yes, I'm going to wear this on my body, but I will treasure it and keep it in a special place. Tankathon has Pens picking Preston 24th. Do you think it's possible? It's possible, very possible, but I don't think it's likely. I knowing Kyle Dubas and Wes Clark, how they think, and I feel like I have a decent finger on the pulse of what they like. I don't think Preston scratches that. I don't think he's the right player for them there. Like, to me, if a Wyatt Cullen is available at 24, that's the most obvious Pittsburgh Penguins pick I think I have ever seen in my life. And I think Preston very well. Like, there's, I think, a world where Preston doesn't go day one. I don't think it's likely, but it's very possible. I mean, Pronman didn't even have him ranked, I don't think, right? So I want to double check that. But let's see. Yeah, didn't have him ranked at all. So, you know, Chase Harrington, though, if you want Chase Harrington, he's ranked. But it does not seem like Preston is there at all. Okay. McTavish has been playing wing the last few games. That's cool. Good for him. I asked pre-Christmas if he thought Milan Sundstrom could get an under-18 spot in the 08s. He said no. That's more likely now. He's almost a point a game as Vigo. Yeah, I think it's entirely possible now. I mean, I've seen a bit of him in the U20 league, and he's awesome. And I mean, there's just a lot of Swedes, I think, that are going to get positions there as long as their teams are eliminated. But I think you might be right. Like, he's really good, and I think he deserves a spot on that group. What do you think of that NHL selling back the 32nd pick to Ottawa for $1 million? I mean, I get it. Look, I think both sides have an argument, right? Andlauer, supposedly, if you take him at his word, did not know that the penalty was coming down the pipe. And from a business perspective, losing a first-round pick, especially if it turns out to be a top pick, could be a multi-million-dollar penalty, right? Like, let's say, for example, Ottawa was the worst team in the league this year, and that turned out to be Gavin McKenna. Ottawa would have Gavin McKenna taken away from them. And the marketing value there, the net present value of Gavin McKenna could be very, very high. So for Michael Andlauer to look at that and go, well, I paid $1 billion for this company, and I'm unfortunately now looking at maybe losing out on potentially millions and millions of dollars of revenue because of a player, then that's bunk. And I think that would be correct. And he didn't do anything, right? The GM did something, and he had no control over it. But at the end of the day, the team itself still did make that mistake. So the fact that they hid it or they didn't tell Andlauer that there was that was coming, makes it a little bit different. So as an agreement, I think if I'm Michael Andlauer, I'm going back to them and going, look, well, let's negotiate on something where we can come to an agreement where we do pay a penalty, but you get something in return. And the NHL probably is just like, fine, and they did it. I think that paying $1 million, I mean, maybe it's a waste of $1 million depending on who Ottawa picks with that pick, and they may as well not have drafted anybody. It's possible at 32nd overall. But if they nail it with that pick, then that $1 million is a great investment. So you never know. It's too early to say anything. But also when you pay, like, what was it, $1 billion for a team, 0.01% of the value of the team for getting your first round draft pick back is a decent investment, as long as you do well with the draft pick. What the hell's happening with Sacha Boisvert getting a healthy scratch for his attitude, apparently? Well, like, look at the Boston University roster. It's like a who's who of folks who may not have the best reputation. And so I don't know anything specifically about what went on with Boisvert. I mean, he's a guy that I was never the biggest fan of. I think he's a player that there's a high ceiling with his game, but he is frustrating. And I think that look, it's a one game thing, right? It's not, he's not cooked. It's not over. I think it's fine. It's unfortunate and you don't like to see it happen, but I don't know exactly what's going on there, but it's also a big reason why I'm not worried about Tynan Lawrence. Like, I watch him with Boston University. We did a game of him the other day. I thought he was awesome. He was awesome. And I just look at the rest of that team other than Cole Hudson, and I just go, yeah, it's no wonder nothing's really happening, right? Like, not much you can really change, especially because he's now kind of playing more of a playmaker's two-way center role, which is a little unusual. But yeah, I don't know what the deal is, honestly. What's going on with Poitras? Matthew Poitras? I don't know. I mean, look, I was never a huge Poitras guy when he was drafted, and I was a little surprised he went straight to the NHL. And yeah, like I've never been a huge Matthew Poitras fan. I think he just got put in a role that, like, I don't know, maybe was just too much too quickly for a guy like that. I don't know. I mean, the Bruins had open jobs, but to me, again, I'm biased, but to me, it's like, if they're going to give that opportunity to a guy like Poitras, there must be something else going on that's preventing you from giving us an opportunity like what Poitras has been given to play a Fabian Lysell and give him a run and see what you got in him in the NHL. Because I thought he played pretty well for the Bruins down the stretch last year. But I mean, that to me, that makes me think, like, yeah, Poitras is the cultural person the Bruins are looking for, so they'll put him higher on the depth chart. But then they eventually must have gone, I don't know, maybe he needs more AHL time and sent him back. What you're saying about Lysell is sit him down with some Paul Byron tape and say, do this. Exactly. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. What's going on with Brandon Carlo? He plays for the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's what's going on. What are your thoughts on Gross from St. Cloud? I have not seen enough of him to tell you. I don't know. I should check him out, but I don't know enough. How's Brad Treliving going to hurt me if the Leafs get the pick? Also, fire me as a low IQ individual. Yeah, okay. AJ is going off here. I mean, Brad Treliving could hurt you in a variety of different ways. But, I mean, look, if Toronto does make a draft pick in the first round this year with their own pick in the top 5, like, there are some guys where I go, yeah, they're probably targets in that range, and I would not do that there. Sure, I feel like that's definitely something you could say, but, in that range of the draft, there's a lot of good options. Like, if an Albert Smith ends up in Toronto, then sure, but judging by the Toronto Maple Leafs and their trajectory and who is likely to be available in the summer with free agency and who they have to make trades with to maybe make the team better, I don't think it's going to get any better next year. I feel like you not having a pick next year is arguably even riskier than not having a pick this year. So I guess you're hoping that Toronto somehow manages to find a way to finish as good as they possibly can this year and tank it out till the end of the year and then see what next year holds. And Boston just gets a lottery pick and you cross your fingers, I suppose. Or if you're Boston Bruin, if you're a Boston fan, you cross your fingers for a different reason, you know? What'd you learn from your Beckett Seneca and Cutter Gauthier past evaluations? Well, I don't think, look, like with Seneca, I still very firmly believe that he is exactly what he was, which is a very offensive leaning finisher. He has a very good playmaker's mind. He has an excellent shot. And with the right mix around him, he can score, right? But when I watch the Ducks and I look for Seneca and everything, he's just not a guy that I would value at third overall, right? Like, it doesn't, like, in my mind, it doesn't matter because at the draft, I was so convinced that at 3, if I'm the Ducks, I'm going Demidov. And I think you watch Demidov with the Habs this year and you go, I would still rather have Demidov. So, like, even if Seneca caught up to him and was maybe actually instead of a top 15 guy or top 20 guy, he is playing like a top 10 or top 5 even, I still would rather have Demidov. So, like, I still think that that would have been the right call if I were the guy running it. So, like, but Seneca is exactly what he was when he was in junior. And watching him last year with Oshawa, it was the same thing, right? Like, he's still the same player. But I think also, like, in a similar way to, like, Medicine Hat in the WHL, the Ducks have a lot of skill. The Ducks have a lot of skill on their back end as well. And they just added more in John Carlson. And I think that that also raises the floor of like what your forwards are responsible for, and you have the puck a lot more. So that also benefits Seneca. Cutter Gauthier, though, I think is genuinely one where I think there was a tremendous amount of development in his game. Like this is the thing, right? Like, people ask me, oh, do you regret this? Do you regret that? Do you this or that or this or that? And I actually went back and looked at my tracked data on Cutter Gauthier that year, and I remember why I didn't have him in the top 10 or whatever it was where he went, because all he really was a volume shooter with some size. Like, he just went up the ice and fired the puck a lot from everywhere. And in my experience, more often than not, those guys fail. But he had skill and size, and I think he must have had some good coaching along the way, because watching him with the Ducks, I think he's really rounded out his game. Like, speaking of Seneca, I think a lot of the success that Seneca had at the beginning of the year especially was driven from Gauthier. You know, I think Gauthier has turned into a very, very, very good NHL player, at least as he is right now, and really diversified his game beyond what it was when he was 17. But, like, that's where you're getting into, like, the gambling aspect of all this, right? Like, I didn't know that he was going to develop like he did. And in my experience, more often than not, guys with that profile, you know, he kind of gamed out in the data as a slightly bigger Alexander Holtz. And I think you could make the argument that there are universes where a different path forward for an Alexander Holtz leads him to a better, more successful career. But also at the same time, that profile is risky. That profile of a hockey player is risky. And in Anaheim's case, it worked out. For Gauthier, it worked out. And Seneca, like, my mind has not really shifted on him. And you can go back and look at my ranking from when Seneca was draft eligible. I said, like, scoring is not the problem with him. Like, that's never been the issue. It's just a matter of, like, how much can he round out his game and what are they going to need out of him? What's the requirement? But I think in the situation he's in Anaheim, there's a better situation around him that allows him to sort of thrive in a more offensive leaning role and be just fine. Can you rank the following junior teams in terms of overall talent? Oh God. OHL, WHL, Q, US, Sweden, MHL, Finland, Junior. Okay. I mean, of all of those, I would, oh boy. I think you squeak out the USHL. I think you squeak out the USHL above all of it. I think the USHL has really taken a step. It's fast, it's physical, it's intense. There's skill. I'd probably, from what I've seen this year, the dub after that, Swedish under 20 mixed in maybe after the OHL, then Quebec, then the Russian league, then Finland, then the under 18s in Sweden. But it's tricky, and it's tricky in every league. I think the reason I'd also put the USHL at the top is because it's the smallest league, right? You have the most concentration of talent. You know, it's not the NHL where there's 40 teams and half of them don't exist. They exist, but they don't. Finland, half the teams are capable, half of them are not. Sweden even, right? Especially at the under 18 level, a bunch of teams are just not on the same level as the others. So when you see guys who have, 3, 4, 5 points a game at those levels, especially under 18 in Sweden, you have to be really, really careful. Because the breadth of competition can be humongous. I mean, we just saw the meme about how bad Rimouski's been in the queue for the last few weeks, and yeah, like after the CHL trade deadline, go look at Medicine Hat over the last 10 games. Their games are like 8-5, 10-1, 9-2, 7-0. Like, it's just not. It's just you have to be so careful. Whereas with the USHL, you don't really have that. Like, there's no real crazy USHL trade flurries, generally speaking, and there's fewer teams, and the good players go to college, and that's happening in the CHL as well. But because there's so many more players in the CHL, the floor is dropping because the ceiling is now dropping because those players are going to college if they want to. So it's really tricky, right? Because some leagues like the WHL and OHL are good leagues. They're very good. So is the Q, but they are very wide. Like, it's very wide. But the USHL is very narrow, but maybe not the top end guys being our top guys. Like, I think a really good example from this past 2 seasons is look at Adam Banach, right? He was a USHL guy. People criticized him for the scoring. He was like a point a game or something last year in the USHL. Now he's like shooting the lights out with the Brantford, with Brantford, right? Like, but that's largely because that team is so good. But he's a huge part of it. Whenever I watch that team, he's a huge part of it. So in my opinion, he went to a lower level of play. I look at guys like Jack Hextall this year. I think he played great in the CHL, right? Even Landon Hafley is another one where I'm like, if he went to the WHL or OHL or whatever, I feel like he'd be pretty good there too. Arguably, he should have gone to college this year, but that's neither here nor there. Sweden is, I think, a good league too, but the Russian Junior League, the best teams are good, the worst teams are awful, and you could say the same thing about Finland. It's tough. Like, a lot of those leagues, that's the problem. That's the case. You have some teams that are winning every game 10-0, and you have some teams losing every game 10-0, and it's just not. It's not easy. Any thoughts on who the Rangers should take with their other first round pick? I haven't heard much mentioned about the back half of the first round. Well, if I'm the Rangers, if I'm the New York Rangers, I mean, if Ryan Lynn is there and you want to staple him to Adam Fox as a roommate for the next 5 years, you do that, I think. But if I want someone who I legitimately think could be a really good Ranger, like a Gleb Pugachev, could be really fun there. I really like Adam Anderson or Victor Plant as a late first, early second round pick. I honestly, if I'm the Rangers, I'm thinking about trading down as well, judging by who's likely to be there. If I'm running the New York Rangers and a guy like Preston is there, I'm doing that because Preston in New York could not work out very well for you, but it could be the best decision you ever made if things roll, if the dice roll comes up good. Which would be a lot of fun. Or Casey Mutrin, I think, would be a great Ranger. There's a lot of options, I think, and it depends. Like, once we get to the draft, I'd be leaving my phone on and seeing what's available. What was it? Which NHL GMs have you liked their work so far this season? I mean, I like what Washington is doing. Is that McFarland or is that Vegas? Who's in Washington? I don't remember, but I like what Washington is doing. I mean, I like Eric Tulsky. I think Eric Tulsky not doing anything at the trade deadline is commendable because, you know, I agree that like it seems like teams really, really want wanted high prices for things, and Carolina is smart enough to say, you know, I think that it is a good statement to make to your team when you look at the room and say, I think we're good enough. I think we're capable enough. Other teams can take risk and try to add to fix a problem they think they have. Because I think if you just make a trade at the deadline, just to make a trade at the deadline and add a good player, I think you're making a mistake because there's so much more to the sport than just bring in good player and team get better. Like, I think it's way more complicated than that. And I think to sort of be principled enough to go, well, we know what we kind of are looking for to put on our team, but we didn't get it and we weren't willing to pay what we pay. And if there is a big trade to make, we can make it in the offseason. It also sucks that their big free agent signing, Nikolai Ehlers, who I love, went down with an injury. I don't know if that's been like explained further. But yeah, I think Carolina's doing a good job. That's nothing new. Washington I like, by and large. I'm trying to think of other ones. Maybe I just need to look at the standings, and because I also often forget that NHL teams exist. I think Kent Hughes has also done a really good job, mostly by sitting back. But like getting Philip Deneau, I think was a really nice move for them. So yeah, that's another one that's good. Sticking with Martin St. Louis. What else have we got going on here? Colorado's another really good one, I think. I mean, obviously, because they're top of the league, but the moves they've made this year, you know, Nick Waugh, Nazem Kadri, Nick Blankenberg, like I think those are all really, really good additions, and I don't think they paid that much to get all those guys. If you were an NHL GM and you were interviewing someone to become a scout for your organization, what qualities would you want? Well, I mean, if I were running a scouting department, I'd have it split into two factions, right? One would be my boots on the ground intelligence agents, right? They would be more of the psychological analysis side, and the other would be more of the player analysis side. And so it depends on which one they kind of are looking to, what role they're kind of trying to fill. But I definitely would be looking for people who can articulate things about a player's style of play in such a way that it at least the output at the end of it is, this is why this player is a benefit to their team. You hear so much about like what a player is, right? It's like, oh, this guy's big and skates well and has a lot of skill. And to me, it's like, well, sure, but like, how do they use it? Do they apply their skill well? Like, in what areas of the ice are they effective? How do they help us? Right? Like, you could be the greatest skater in the world, but if you can't shoot the puck, or if every time the puck hits your stick, it bounces 6 feet in the air and you can't control the puck, then it doesn't matter. So for me, it's like, it's not just about identifying the talent. It's about identifying how it helps and moves the game in the right direction. Obviously, you can't avoid some level of bias in that process as well. Like, I would be looking for people who, like, I would look for people who obviously see the game similarly to me. I'm a believer that synergy in your organization is really, really important. But I also, like, there are people I know and I talk to who disagree with me, and I get their perspective. Like, I think that the beautiful thing about hockey is that there is room for nuance and disagreement that is legitimate. And it's, at the end of the day, you just kind of roll the dice and see where it comes out. Like, like looking at this draft class, if someone's looking at someone that I have ranked 6, right, like Gustafsson, and Smits is on the board, and I want Smits and they really want Gustafsson, for different reasons, I think you can make an argument one way or the other, right? And as long as those arguments are, again, rooted in like, well, here's why, in terms of the actual flow of a hockey game, here's why I like this guy over this guy. That, to me, is really the key. And, you know, I also need to like have a track record, right? Like I can't obviously hire someone if I don't know what work they've done, you know? But you know, it'd be a matter, it's a matter of like finding people who have that balance of, understanding the game from a strategic standpoint and I think an important question is to them, like, if you were building a hockey team, what would be your focus? Like, what would be your grand strategy in terms of when you put the team on the ice? What do you want to see every night, right? And if someone's sitting there going, I want a team that's tough to play against and they fight every night and they'll rip your head off before they lose a game, I go, okay, maybe you're not a good fit, right? But maybe another team would see that person as a very valuable asset, right? So it's a tough question to answer, but I think a lot of it comes down to, like, when you're talking about a player, when you're pitching me a player, I need to know why you think, and in specific areas of the game, why you think they are going to be a net positive and the guy, the net positive that we want above others, right? Like if I game out a short list of the draft for what picks you want, who's on that list for you and why? And why not these other guys, right? Because I think, again, like, yes, you don't want to just hire people who agree with you all the time, but you also want to hire people who see things similarly. Because I think the cardinal mistake you could make is say, well, we need to have a difference of opinion because X. And it's like, I think there's a very fine difference between a difference of opinion that is healthy and a difference of opinion that you end up spinning your wheels in the mud and you end up with a middling team that doesn't have an identity. You know what I mean? I think you have to really be careful of that pitfall. Have you watched any Joe Erickson? Yes, I have. He's the only high school guy I've seen this year so far that I really, really like. But when he goes back to the Steel, I'll be watching more of him. Who are the draft eligibles playing in the CHL you'd like to see play in the NCAA next year, and what do you think they should stay? And what players do you think should stay in the CHL? Well, I mean, all of the guys scoring a ton in the WHL, I don't want in the CHL anymore, or the CHL in general, right? Like Reid, Preston, Villeneuve, Lynn, Carels, even. I think all of these guys just shouldn't be going back. Like, they're just not going to be tested in the NCAA. Jackson Cover, I might want to see more in the OHL next year. Maybe Maddox Dagenet, I'd probably want another year in junior. Maybe. I could see it either way with him. But like Hurlburt, I want him going to the NCAA because I want to know what's really there with him. I don't know. I've said it a billion times, but I still fundamentally just don't know about the the CHL in terms of the skill level. Vandenberg is a guy I would want going back to the OHL, I would say. Brooks Rogowski, I could see also being a guy I'd want back in the OHL for a year. Maybe. Like, there are guys that I want being tested at a higher level in the NCAA because they're very successful now. And there are guys that I think show signs of being successful potentially, and it's not there yet. But you could go to the NCAA and test it and see how it goes. But maybe you could also make the argument of like, well, one more year in junior hockey, you'll play more, you'll play even more, you'll get more opportunity, you'll be more productive, and you can sort of scale better into the NCAA. And I think you could go either way. Yeah, like JC Lemieux, Pearson Bowie. I'm just looking at my own list here. Joe Aginla, Beckham Edwards, Alessandro Dorio, all those guys I'd probably want going back to the CHL. Brady Wasselin, Noah Kozik, all those guys I think go back to the CHL. Or should, I should say. But a few guys definitely should be going up a level to the NCAA. So Chase Reid got cut from the USHL before striking it big in the CHL. Did Reid drastically change his game, or did the USHL suck at player evaluation? I think it's that the USHL is a tough league. Like, I think Reid has freedom in the Sioux system to do whatever. Like, he touches the puck a ton, he moves the puck a ton, he plays a ton, and he is very good, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with Chase Reid, but I do believe that the physical intensity and the speed of the USHL is higher than the OHL now. And even if the skill level with the best players might not be as high, it is a bit more of a challenge for a defenseman in areas where I think Reid is a bit of a work in progress still. Whereas in the CHL, you can get away with, like, look at Zane Parekh, right? Like, you can get away with letting a guy just fly and do his own thing and carry the puck and skate around with it and be the more skilled guy on the ice. You can get away with that. I just don't think it's that easy in the USHL. I think the USHL rewards a different type of defenseman. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's that, because he played in the NAAHL too, right? And I remember watching Chase Reid when he was 15 or 16 and going, I like this guy. He's a good skater for a guy his size, and there's lots to like. I just didn't see the offense in his game, really. And I think that offense stems from a lot of freedom and a lot of confidence being allowed in the OHL. That we'll see what happens. I think in the NCAA, though, he'll still have no problem. But it depends. Like, we'll see. It depends. We'll see how it works out. But I do see a lot more of him now where I'm like, okay, I see why people like him so much. I don't know about first overall, but he's worked his way up my list all year, and he kind of fluctuates around now, and it's fine. Chase, does he feel Flames coded? I don't know who he is. You're going to need to remind me. I apologize. Why Oliver Suvanto drop off? Mostly because other guys, I just think there's more upside with them. I think with Suvanto, like, I love him a lot. Don't get me wrong. I saw recently, though, I've seen a really good game of Ethan Belchitz before he got injured. A really, really good game of Ryan Lynn. More really good games from names like Hermansen, Cullen, even Mutrin, where, you know, if you want Suvanto over those guys, fair enough. Like, I feel like it would be very difficult for Suvanto to not be an NHL player. He's very smart. He's very big. He's moderately physical. He's that prototypical Finnish third line guy and can get the job done and eat some minutes. And that's fine. That's great. I love that about him. But he is going to be a very interesting one to watch in the draft, because I think it's very possible that he gets drafted really, really high. But I look at him and I think that he is about at the bottom of where I possibly could have him. Oscar Hemming and him, I think, are relatively similar, but I look at Hemming's skating ability, his bigger willingness to be physical, I think, and his finishing ability. And I think there's a little bit more to like there than Suvanto, but Suvanto is just a rock solid hockey player, and he's very young. So is Hemming. And that's the thing about the draft this year, is like, you could slice it it's sliced so thin between players. So thin. It's really, really hard to pick through. Like, it might just come down to interviews. Who do you vibe with? Like, Oliver Suvanto might end up a third line center. I think that's probably where he ends up, a third or a fourth line center. I see like a Brian Boyle in that type of guy, a Nick Dowd type player. And that's a valuable piece to have. But, like, do you draft that guy top 10? I don't know. I don't think so. You know, Manny Malhotra, right? Maybe a Suvanto is, but like middle of the first round, and you just get a good third line center that has a bit of skill, and maybe he can play with some skilled wingers on the third line or something. On my team, I would be very happy with that. I'd be very happy with that out of him, and that's, I think, around the range where I think I'm okay with that value. And I also will admit, I'm also like more or less risk averse, right? Like, I see guys that other people say are risky, and I go, yeah, but I think I'd rather gamble. I'd rather take the gamble. I don't know. I know that, and that's very opposite to a lot of NHL teams, but I go, I'd rather like get on the kid's good side and like get on their I believe in you type thing, and start from there, rather than like, not that Suvanto is chickening out, but play it safe, you know, and just say, well, this guy, our coach can play him, and that'll be it. And, you know, again, Suvanto's not a bad player at all. It's just a matter of like where they'll play in the lineup, what they'll do well, and what they bring. But I also admit, like, there's a chance that Suvanto develops really, really well and adds more dimensions to his game for sure. And yes, I agree. And Lauer probably threatened legal action, and it was a compromise. I agree. I mean, it must have been, right? Like, that's the only explanation that makes sense in my mind. Do you think Maxime Massey's stat line this season is legit, or just another case of the Q being the Q, and we'll see next year when he's at UMass? I feel like it's just another, like, he's a 19-year-old in a league where a lot of really good players left, where a lot of the teams are not very good. Like, and he's very naturally just a physical power, you know? Right? Like, I think that's the big thing is I think he's bigger and stronger than a lot of the competition. And that's that. I just checked Wyatt Cullen is the son of two-time Cup winner Matt Cullen. Exactly. And Matt Cullen works with them. with the Penguins. So and he plays a way that I look at him and I go, I can absolutely see Wes Clark loving this guy. I can absolutely see Kyle Dubas loving this guy. And yeah, Matt Cullen works with it. Like it all adds up, right? Brooks Rogowski first overall. Exactly. Yeah. What about Wyatt Cullen has risen him in the top 15? I mean, he's been there a while. And a lot of it is just like the skill level and how smart he is with regards to like creativity. And I think his edges and quickness has really improved since the beginning of the year. His youth is also a huge advantage. Like the only thing about his game that I don't really like is his legs, like his speed. And I think that if you give him a power skating coach and he kind of like tweaks his ability to generate speed really quickly, I think you could have an elite scoring winger there, like just as a playmaker alone. But his shot is also extremely good. His hands are awesome. The last game I did of him, he was outstanding, but I mean, he's been kind of hovering in this range for a while. And I mean, I think he's just as interesting as a lot of the guys I have on that list. Between him and I'd say as deep as Hawkinson, Piperinen type thing, like middle first round. I love him. If the Bruins don't get the Leafs pick this year, it likely won't come till 2028. If 2027 is top 10, the Leafs get to choose to give it to the Bruins or Flyers. Right. So if the Bruins don't get so if the Leafs pick top 5, the Leafs get to choose next year. Well, but then they do that. Then they lose. So if the Leafs draft this year, they could also draft next year, if I'm reading that correctly. But then wouldn't they not have picks in 2029 and 2030? I guess that's probably the right call if that's the case. You just give up your picks as far down the pipeline as possible, and you try to figure it out now. And just blow it for this year and next year. I don't know the answer, man. Toronto might be in the worst spot in the whole league. I don't know the answer. I don't know what to do. If I'm Brad Treliving, the team is in a rut, and I think no matter what, the argument circles around praying to the hockey gods that this year's just a one-off and next year is better. But I don't know. That when you get down to that point where you're going prayer is the answer, I don't know. I get your Gauthier take. He used to disappear a little from the game a lot. Yeah, that I think is part of the issue. I disagree about Seneca. I think he's their best offensive player. Well, that's exactly what I said, though. Like, offensively, there's no problem, right? Like, I think Seneca has no problem as a skilled generator of offense in the NHL. But again, like, with regards to what I value in a player at draft time, he then and through the last couple of seasons, unless he's completely rejuvenated his game and has which I don't know has been the thing. I remember even in preseason this year, people were going, I don't know about the Seneca guy. He kind of is floaty and like focused on offense and yada, yada, yada. So it doesn't surprise me that you think he's their best offensive player. Because he is a really good offensive player. What is it that people see in Carels that you don't? I don't know. Like, I don't know. Let's see. What does what's his name? What does Corey Pronman think, right? Carels is a strong two-way defender. He's a powerful fluid skater who can get up the ice easily. I don't necessarily agree with that. Fluid, sure. Fluid, yeah. Closes on checks well, usually, I guess, yeah, that's true. Uses his feet and body to break up plays, generally kind of true. He has an edge in his game and plays with physicality. I'd say that's also true. I don't know if I'd call his compete level high end like he does. And I also, again, like when you look at, like he calls his skating average, but then Albert Smits is also average and Daxon Rudolph is also average. And I just don't agree with that. And also, like, looking at his write-up on Carels, he's got everything is average except an above-average shot and a high-end compete level. And then you've got Tynan Lawrence in the same tier and almost universally is above average. And I would argue his hockey sense is more than average. But he's ranked 5 spots lower. But we're talking about Carels. Like with Carels, I just think that, again, like at the WHL level, he is able to play down to his competition a lot more. He gets a lot of opportunity in the offensive zone that I just don't like. I think he'll be a solid NHL defenseman, which is why he's in my first round. I just think that it's not worth drafting a guy like that in the top 5. Like when I watch, like I do this all the time. I watched a game of him and A-B'd it with guys like Reid, Gustafsson, Smits, all the other defensemen at the top, Villeneuve. And I go, I see the appeal of Carels, but I'm not drafting him ahead of all of those guys. There's no way. There's no way. I just don't see it. And that automatically knocks him down quite a few pegs. But I do think that he's gotten more impressive in the games I've seen over time. But yeah, I mean, yeah, like even in the write-up, he's like, he won't play power play 1, which is what he's doing now. And so I think, you know, like if you get a middle pair minute eater, like he compares him to Ryan McDonough, who was also a late mid first round pick. Like Ryan McDonough was not drafted 5th overall, right? And I think if you get a middle pair defenseman in the middle of the first round or later in the first round in Carels, I'm not surprised. But there are just other defensemen in a strong draft year, I think, for defensemen that I think just knock him down a few pegs. And like I look at, you know, you want to talk about fluid skaters who close on checks well and break up a lot of plays. Like I'd argue William Håkansson is another really good example of that. Juho Piparinen is an example of that. So if someone else takes Carels at 5 and I get one of those two guys around later, I feel okay about that, you know. When are we ramping up to Scouching report season? Probably 2 weeks from now. Yeah, the skill gap in U20 is pretty huge. It is, but it's not as bad. Like, I don't think you have situations where teams are like losing 10-0 all the time. But you do get that in Finland, you get that in Russia, you get that in the CHL. But I don't think that really happens that often in that league. If you look at the 2024 draft on Hockey Reference, Beckett Seneca is 3rd in point shares, but he is behind Demidov. Well, okay, but I don't. Sure, but like I don't care. Like I've seen both of them play, man. I would rather have Demidov. I don't know. I would rather have Demidov. I like Demidov is stapled to Oliver Kapanen, right? Like Oliver Kapanen is a 20 goal scorer. If you take Oliver Kapanen away from Ivan Demidov, does he still score 20 goals? I'm not sure. If you take Ivan Demidov and plop him with Owen Beck, does Owen Beck score 20 goals? I bet he'd probably come pretty close, right? Like I'm not saying I like Oliver Kapanen. He's a good player. But being stapled to Ivan Demidov really helps you out. Whereas Seneca is getting a ton of ice time and with good players too. Like, I mean, not that Kapanen isn't one, but I don't know. I see Demidov as a player where he has enough skill and creativity and quickness in his game that I think he's just going to get better and better and better the more he plays over time. Not that Seneca won't, but I mean, I think I would still rather have him. CHL needs less teams so the talent doesn't get diluted. Well, it already is, but I agree. Like, I think it really sucks though, right? Like I'm Canadian. I don't like seeing things go wrong, right? But it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that things that are happening are not happening. And I think I really do feel, I mean, I live in a town where there's no CHL team, but I really do feel for people where the organization, it's like a community thing, right? Like I think you look at, I think you look at a place like Peterborough, right? The Petes are central to the culture of the town. You don't like, it's obviously very flippant to be like half the CHL teams should fold. And like, maybe that's true, but you're taking away a very, very, very important thing to a lot of people. So it's not that easy. And like, it's unfortunate, but like, it's like the damned if you do, damned if you don't thing, right? Because I think it is a necessary thing Canada needs to do if they want to develop more well-rounded players, right? You're seeing a lot of skill coming out of Canada. You're seeing a lot of creative players coming out of Canada. But you're seeing a lot of guys who, like you see it again, you go to the World Juniors, I think you see a lot of why there are some issues with Canada nowadays. Whereas when you look at other countries, they don't really have the similar issues. They just don't have the skill. They don't have the finishing ability, right? That Canada does. So it's really tricky. It's a tough spot. But I don't know what the answer is really. Outside of some billionaire coming along and starting his own junior league, that, you know, or something along those lines. I don't know. Like it's too far gone to really seriously do something about it. Because, like, what are you going to do? Take away a bunch of teams from towns that, like, really love their teams? I don't want to be that person. But at the same time, it's like, do you want to be the person that swoops in and says, no, we need an elite level junior hockey team, and all of the best junior hockey players in Canada are going to go where the money is, which is, I don't know, you have a hub in Toronto, a hub in Montreal, and a hub in Vancouver, and you just have 3 leagues of 6 teams in each city, and they just, you know, or the NHL sponsors some sort of Canadian junior league, and you have the junior Maple Leafs playing the junior Senators and the junior Canucks. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but that also is, I don't want to be the guy to do that either, right? Like, it's tough. So I don't know what the answer is, really. I have no idea, but I agree. Like, it's just, there's too much going on, and, like, I don't think it's a good thing that half the teams, or not a half, but like a third of the teams in those leagues currently, after they trade away everybody for a gazillion picks, you know, they're losing every game 9-0, and good players are coming away going, I had 5 points last night, and people on the internet are like, this kid's going to blow the NHL away because he scored 5 points on a team that is allowing 7 a night. I just don't think that's a healthy developmental environment. But I don't know what you do about it. I don't know. The thing about Reid at first overall is that when the talent cluster is this close, teams often go for positional premium. I agree. 100% agree. You got wingers at the top. Teams probably don't like that much. I agree. 100%. Thoughts on Horenko? Fun player. Skilled. Better defensively than you would think. I like him a lot. I think he's a good player. We'll see what happens. Probably not a guy I draft in the first round. I think he's in my first round. Is he? No, he's in my second round. We'll see. We'll see in the second or third round. I'd probably go for it. But like a good center, but he's one of these guys where I don't think he's gonna fit in a typical bottom 6 for an NHL team. And I don't know if he'll be a winger long term. But at the end of the day, top 9 winger, or at best second line center, an okay one, or an okay third line center if your team is a little more offensive leaning. I could see that being a thing, but he's an interesting one. Have you seen any of Elliot Grunwald this year? I have not. No. I'll check him out. I haven't seen him in a while. I watched a bit of him last year, and we'll see. I haven't looked. Dubas is another one that I've had that also is a GM that's had a really good year. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the Jari trade tree is Jari and Sam Poulin for Skinner, Girard in 2 seconds, and Chinikov has been good. I agree. That's really, really good. Who would have thought, you know? Not me here in Toronto watching Kyle Dubas try his best to pull the Toronto Maple Leafs into the 21st century. Oh well. Who do the Islanders target? Piperinen? I mean, he could be a good option. I mean, if like Tynan Lawrence is somehow available there for the Islanders, it's possible. No, it's not possible. No, it's not. Never mind. Forget it. Unlikely, at least. But if he's there, that's a no-brainer. I think he'd be a great Islander. The Islanders. It depends on what you like, you know? Like, there's a lot of different players available this year that you could play around with, right? I like Håkansson. I think he could be a nice defenseman, especially if you've got a guy like Schaefer already in the system developing. And that adds another really good defenseman there. Casey Mutrin would be a great Islander. I think he'd be a lot of fun to watch there. Wyatt Cut. Like, there's a lot of good... I mean, it's going to be the same list for all of these teams, right? But for what the Islanders seem to be going for after last year's draft, those more sort of fun, offensive, high-pace energy guys, check the boxes for me. Are you in a simulated hockey league? No, I am not. I am in a fantasy league. We run a fantasy league through Scouching for subscribers. And I'm doing very well in that. I think I'm 3rd in the league now, which is awesome. Finally. Unrelated to hockey, so maybe save this until later. I have my own interesting take on how AI will impact the music industry and ultimately please artists. The AI music will disrupt the world of music that is easier to listen to and meant for mass consumption because that is music that is far more predictable for an AI model to replicate. Yes, I agree. Specifically the realm of an artist like Taylor Swift or Katy Perry, but what it can't replicate is intricate, technically skilled, experimental, or vocally advanced music. That's entirely human. You might be seeing this in the recent reemergence of the UK soul scene. Agree. And in pop or experimental artists like Rosalia gaining popularity. I saw Rosalia live in concert last time she swung through town. We got tickets for the next concert. She was amazing. If you get the chance to see her show live is amazing. I don't mean AI cannot replace technical music. What I'm saying is AI by nature aggregates the work of others where human artists are predictable. So yeah, I think being a person who has professional experience in the music industry, I think it's really funny, right? I think with AI stuff and everything, it's really funny to see people who at my age or younger are like, well, they're doing the back in my day thing that they hated it when their parents did it. You know, like it's like if they lived through the internet era, they would be upset that notaries were losing their jobs, right? They would be upset that the assistant to the accountant is being replaced by a spreadsheet, right? Like they would be upset that Scrooge, like Ebenezer Scrooge in his office in Muppet Christmas Carol with like all the Muppets doing the books. It's like, well, all of those people, it sucks they're going to all lose their jobs, but it's like, they're like so averse to any sort of change, right? And I think with music, AI, I think it's going to replace jobs, obviously. Like, I think the jobs that AI music is going to take care of are a lot of background music things. All of the music in like Love is Blind and Survivor and all of that other stuff, I think will be done not only by fewer people, but a lot quicker with AI music. Now, I will also say that it doesn't mean that you can't have anybody doing any kind of musical intervention for media at all anymore. I think you do need an expert or some sort of guide to know how to work the system. In the same way that, like, just because you have access to Microsoft Excel doesn't make you a CEO, right? It's very different. And so it's just very funny to me seeing this like freak out about anything related to this technological shift. And I empathize with like, oh, I'm going to lose my job. But like, also, if there's anything that I think is true from the insane takeover that happened at Twitter, they had like thousands of people doing work and they cut a bunch of people, a lot of them, and the site, for all of its faults, it's after a bumpy ride there, it's working fine. The actual operations of the site, they trimmed a ton of staff and they're working just fine. And so it's like, were there too many computer people anyway in the first place that were just waiting to be replaced anyway? You know, some of the people when I worked in an office, some of the people who did the least amount of work were the computer related people, you know? So you know, it's like there's two sides to everything, right? And I think to bring it back to music, it is gonna be. I agree though. Like I think that it's like, to me, it's like saying movies are dead because Toy Story exists, right? It's like, well, you don't need to know how to hand draw a movie like Bambi anymore. You can just do it in a computer. So movies are dead. And it's like, well, no, like hand-drawn animated movies, nobody wants to do those anymore because they're too expensive, unless you're like Miyazaki. And now it's coming for music, right? You're getting situations where there are things that computers are going to be able to do that make it a lot easier for humans to be productive, you know? And yes, you did need to like render everything. Every frame in Toy Story needed to be rendered, of course, but it was just a different skill set. But that doesn't mean that like art is dead. It doesn't mean that people never drew a picture ever again. So like, if you want to write music, look at the Angine de Poitrine viral sensation in Canada. Like, they are like nothing you've ever heard before in your life, unless maybe you count like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Like, they are nothing like anything. And there's no computer program that's going to do that. You know? So like, I think you're going to live in this like we're going to be living in this two-tier world where, yeah, there's AI slop, there's AI generated stuff, but it's to me, there's also going to be things made by people that are people are going to love. And I think also, like, think back to how awful websites used to be back in like the 90s or 2000s. like internet slop was also a thing then, right? And people were concerned about the access to information and what that would bring and yada, yada, yada. And we're still kind of wrestling with it, but things settle eventually, right? And upheaval is not fun at the time, but upheaval often ends up with things being a lot better. And we'll see what happens. But in terms of music, I think AI's application in music can be very useful for things like licensing music, for things like background music for TV productions, all that kind of stuff. But you still do need, I think, expert involvement. And I think there's now research coming out more often than not that there is a lot of evidence that AI is not being applied well if you just kill everything and only use the AI, as opposed to have some level of expertise and people involved in the process still, right? But yeah, it's a very interesting, I find it very, very interesting, all of this. And I'm just sort of watching it happen and sort of, because also there's nothing I can do about it, right? You can't put the cat back in the bag, right? The cat's out of the bag with AI models and stuff. It's out, like it's done, and we just got to hold on and see what happens. What do you think of the Ruck brothers? I like them. They're smart. I think they're good players. But I think they're a little overvalued because of the situation they're in. Medicine Hat is a wagon. Again, they're winning every game like 10-0. And that's because they all have just lines and lines and lines of skill. It's crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, I mean, with Liam, I really like Liam. His skill level and his shot, at least in terms of like his playmaking and like knowing when to use his skill and how, is really good. I have Liam ranked. I don't have Marcus ranked. But I feel like with both of them, they'll be gone before I would take them anyway. So kind of doesn't matter. But I like Liam. He's smart. And I think if his boots can catch up and he develops well, you could have a really interesting player. But yeah, I think there's just a lot of other guys I like as they are right now. Out of everyone you tracked this year, which player is an analytical darling but isn't really projected to go high? Probably Mathis Preston. Even after the game that I just did. Is this going to work? Let's see. Yeah, that does work. Like, Preston in a lot of ways is looking pretty decent, right? On a like his transition numbers are really, really good. Again, I need to switch the coloring around on this. I forgot until now. Really good offensive zone forechecking. Like there's a lot. He's underratedly physical as well. Really, really great playmaking version. A really, really great playmaking numbers as well, but maybe he's not the best example now that I'm looking at this. I've had my pants pulled down live on the internet. But who else could be a really good example? Let's see. Go really late. Maybe Lars Steiner. Steiner might be one. I feel like Lars Steiner has a really good profile in a lot of ways. Yeah, like really good offensive threat generation, insanely good shot metrics. Relatively decent playmaking, huge provider of offense, huge forechecking numbers, insanely physical, just and like a solid transition guy, but he probably will not go in the first round. So yeah, good player too. There's a lot of good examples out there. Gabe Perreault's tracking to a point per game in the last 7 games. Thoughts on him as a prospect? I haven't seen any of the Rangers recently at all. I don't know. But yes, it is a small sample. I think you kind of have to look at the season as a whole. But I mean, look, again, it's similar to Seneca. You put him in the right position, he'll score. The putting points on the board was never Gabe Perreault's problem. Same thing with Smith. It's like saying Ryan Leonard, the scoring goals was never the problem with Ryan Leonard. Being physical was never the problem. If you put him in a position to focus on the things he's good at, you'll be fine. And I think that with Perreault, sure. Yeah, like the Rangers need scoring. He can score. So you put him in a scoring role and he scores, good for him, right? That's what he does. If I'm Brad Treliving, I'm sending my application to Wendy's. I heard they're going into a rebuild. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, everybody's going to be looking to Wendy's, looking at how all of our money is evaporating in the markets every day, and we're all getting poorer by the minute. And so, yeah, we're all going to be going and serving chicken at Wendy's next week. I'll join you there. Where would Colin Potter rank this year? Very good question. Probably like between Reid and Preston. So 7-8, something like that. Did not say 6-7, but like something like 7-8. I feel pretty confident about that. I still love my boy. Still love my child, my dear boy. For the players you've been wrong about, is there a common theme or pattern? Well, there isn't really an answer I can give you that doesn't sound like cope, right? Like, the players I've been wrong about, and depends on your definition of wrong, but like the players that work out, like Matthew Rempe is an everyday NHL player. Never in a quadrillion years did I, or probably anybody else, but all of a sudden it's like a small group of people disagree. So does that mean that, even if he isn't the best NHL player, the fact that he is there, does that make everybody wrong? Right? I do think that there is a common thread of I think I'm trying to fix it, but players who are capable of also playing the game in a possession-heavy way and slowing the game down a little bit, being able to play both quickly and more slowly, I think is a big thing that I'm trying to work on and keep getting better at identifying. I think a really good example of that is like Oliver Suvanto. Like, Suvanto's not the fastest guy in the world, but he can make plays quickly, but he also can slow the game down quite a bit. And in the NHL, yeah, the speed of the game is really fast, and you got to make stuff happen quickly, but it doesn't mean you got to be going quickly. It doesn't mean you have to be an elite skater. It's just a matter of identifying how a player does a thing and going, okay, can they play that style in the NHL? If they're a big, heavy, physical, slower guy, it can work, but they just need some skills to backfill it, right? And that's a common thing that I'm always looking for is am I undervaluing this bigger guy or more physical guy who thrives on keeping the game simpler and maybe less exciting, but you can still see a role in the NHL for them. Like a guy like Brooks Rogowski comes to mind. I don't have Brooks Rogowski ranked very high, but I can see the appeal of a player like that, and I could see why an NHL coach would play him. He's a big center who can get his butt in the way. I don't think his playmaking is particularly great, but he can get up and down the ice okay. He's physical. He can shoot. Like, is a coach going to play a guy like that? Sure. If I don't draft him, do I see it as being wrong if he plays? I don't think so. Because, like, I only have control over nothing. I have control over nothing. And who gets drafted is not up to me. And who plays in the NHL is not up to the scouts. It's not up to me either. Right? So it's really tough to know. But like, I look back on the guys where I'm like, yeah, they're playing in the NHL. And I remember watching them and I just go, I don't understand how this is possible. It just must be they found a role that works for them and they thrive in it. And now they're in the NHL because a coach is playing them there. It's a matter of like also long term, more than one season is kind of how you get a good gauge on a player in the NHL. Like, it's all fun and games in the NHL until people figure you out, right? It's all fun and games until you're a more veteran player and you're held to a higher standard, right? That's the big dividing line too. Like, I'd say 2020 is the first draft year where I can look back on it and go, all right, I can look back and go, maybe I should have done things a little differently here. And I already know lessons from that year that I've tried to work on as well since. So yeah, I know what you mean. I see what you're trying to say. And it's obviously coming off probably like cope, but it's a complicated thing. It's complicated. It's not that easy. And I think I also open myself up to it a lot by doing team scouting, where I'm like, if I had a pick in this spot, I would take this guy. But at the end of the day, a lot of the guys on that list are guys that didn't get drafted, and then a year later or 2 years later, they do get drafted, right? Thomas Galvis was in Sam Cosentino's first round, right? Like, it's not nothing, but yeah, it's always something I'm trying to be more vigilant about and look into and try to understand. And it's like, if there's something about a player that I missed, then I'll go from there, right? But a lot of the time, it's just a coach found a way to play them that maximizes what they're capable of, and they're good at it. So if I can find something like that in a player, then I put them higher on my board. Do you think the Pens will trade up in the draft? I mean, let me just boot up my telepathic link to Kyle Dubas that people seem to think I have. No. I don't think so. I don't know why you would in this draft. Like, if unless you're trading up to one of the highest picks in the draft, I don't know why you would trade up. If anything, Dubas is far more likely to trade down, which is probably the right call. Carroll seems to me like the next Jake Gardner. Great offensively, not great defensively, and risky at offensively too. Would surprise me. A team would not play Carroll's PP1 with a strong shot. I mean, maybe. I don't see that out of him. Maybe, but Jake Gardner certainly had his career arc that had its ups and downs. Like, would you draft Jake Gardner 5th overall? I don't know. And I don't know if I would put Carels on my first power play. Like, if you're relying on your first power play defenseman to be a shooter, I think that's the wrong fit. It's not how I would construct a power play. Bjork scored. Cool. Play more Bjork. Bjork. It is overblown, though, the CHL's downfall. It's still one of the best junior leagues. Says totally unbiased Steelheads fan. I don't know. Look, man, I disagree. I think the CHL, a lot of really good players left. I think a lot of bad teams got worse. I think a lot of teams that are really, really good are extraordinarily good. And it just is rife for, like, I think it's just a scenario where it's rife for misevaluation. Every single CHL player that is scoring in bunches this year, when I watch them, I go, okay, cool. And then I go watch other guys and I go, those other players playing elsewhere are better, more impressive, more interesting in terms of as an NHL player, right? Like, I like JP Hurlbert. I think he's a fine player, but like watching him, and I have the data to show it, right? Like, I've done a bunch of games of Hurlbert to this point. And his offensive like his numbers are not very good. Like JP Hurlbert is among the league leaders in scoring. And I'm looking at it right now. He's under 50% when you look at his overall possession. His pass numbers are mediocre, I'd say, like at best. He's a poor shot selector. His offensive transition numbers are good, but a lot of it is pass receptions. So he's being given the puck, a lot more often than anything else. His defensive numbers are not very good. He's a decent forechecker, but to me, it's like he has the profile of give me the puck in the offensive zone, and I'm just going to put the puck on net or towards the middle of the ice. And to me, I don't find that very repeatable once you get to the NHL. I think you have to have more in your game than that. And that's repeatable for a lot of CHLers this year. Like, I look at the defensemen and I just go, I feel like against NHL competition, these guys are going to eat eaten alive. Like, I feel like these guys, when they're in the World Juniors in 2 years, being played for 25 minutes a night, people are going to go, wow, like we lost to the Czechs again or something, right? Like, maybe I'm wrong and you're right, but I don't know, man. The stage is not set for the CHL to improve either. Like, I've been told by everybody that it's trending younger, and that's the goal, right? So they're aiming to decrease the quality of play. So I don't know. And it's out of necessity because of the NCAA. Like, we all knew that the game was going to shift. Now that the NCAA takes CHL players, we all knew this was going to happen. There was going to be a few years of shifting and undulating and all of that stuff. Like, normally Gavin McKenna would be in the WHL right now. I bet he'd had 200 points by now. I don't know. Like, the goaltending is not very, like, you look at the goaltending numbers in the CHL. By and large, it's not great. So I just think that there are habits that you can learn in the CHL that dry up real quick, at least in this world, and I think that when you look elsewhere, there's a lot more interesting. Can Atlantic Canada have a pod still? Yes, sure. Halifax can have a team, and Moncton. Sure, why not? What's the bear case on Tynan Lawrence? A really good third line center. Like, I'd say the thing with Lawrence is he's a very valuable off puck guy who if you play him with your top line guys, he will score points, but he will not score a ton of points on his own. He's a really good, I think he's an underrated playmaker, but he can be frustrating at times where you want him to take that extra step into the offensive zone. You want him attacking the middle of the ice a little bit more. You want him to be a little bit more engaged, on the puck, I would say. But that's not, I don't know. I still think that he's got a ton of upside. The shot selection is a bit of a question mark. Like, I don't know if he doesn't change those things, the scoring will maybe not be there. But I still think that he has a really strong floor. Like, as pessimistic as I can be, I still think he has a really strong floor. Why do you think Cam Allen's game didn't really blossom after an amazing rookie year in the OHL? I remember Cam Allen just being very skill forward and confident. And I just think that's a really tough thing to maintain for year after year after year as an offensive defenseman. His defensive game, when I tracked him, was very bad as well. Like, I remember watching him going, this guy on the rush and in his own end was not very effective. So it's like a sort of cocktail of problems that just ended up, it was a cocktail of problems that kind of minimized his impact overall. But yeah, I mean, his rookie season, he was very productive. But yeah, you got to be really careful with 16-year-olds for sure. I want to go back to the past and take away Peterborough legends. Yeah, exactly. Demote some historic teams to the OJHL. Sure, maybe that's a solution. Sure. At some point, something's going to have to drop out, and it's still like a big drop from the OHL to the OJHL. If you're the Sioux Greyhounds, if anything, the OJHL makes it even harder for those teams to exist because you don't make as much money, and the travel will still suck. It would just be a lot. It's a lot. And sure, maybe Seneca went in the right range, right? In the 2024 draft, like, would I have taken Seneca over Levshinov? Yes. In retrospect, yes. But like, a lot of guys also haven't even touched the NHL yet, let alone finished developing, and they play a more diverse game than Seneca, right? Like, Berkeley Catton's like a fourth liner for Seattle. T.J. Ginla hasn't touched the NHL yet, and he's a really good player. Zeev Buyam is still cooking. Like, I just also think it's too early to take victory laps about something. Like, are we going to start talking about Igor Chernyshov as like he should have gone top 5 too because he's like got 11 points in 15 games? Like, if we're going to play that game, you got to be a little more patient, I think. I think it's too early. I think you can comfortably say that Macklin Celebrini deserved to go number 1, though. Islanders should be looking for centers. Well, this isn't necessarily the year to do it, but like a Malhotra could be fun. That'd be fun. Thoughts on these comparisons? Verhoff to Parayko? Maybe, yeah. Villeneuve to Hudson? I see where you're coming from. I think he's a more advanced Hudson at this age, personally. But a little more frustrating. Reid and Carlson? Yeah, I could see that too. Sure. Gustafsson, Samuelson? Which Samuelson? Because if we're talking Malte Gustafsson, I'm trying to think. But a really, really, really good shutdown NHL defenseman with some skill and a shot. Whatever that means to you. Smits and Tanev? Sure, I could see that too. I could probably see that. Maybe. Yeah, I could see that. Carels and Gardner? I don't know about that one as much. But yeah, Smits and Tanev, I never thought about it. But yeah, I get it. Who are the guys later on your list that you could see taking big steps and being higher in a redraft in a few years? That's a great question. Man, y'all got some bangers today, man. Woke up on the right side of the bed. I mean, Tommy Blale, I think if things go right, could be awesome. Samuel Lowry, for other reasons, I think maybe not awesome, but could turn out to be a pretty good player. At least as a shutdown defenseman with some good, like we're talking Albert Smits. If you want kind of a discount Albert Smits, maybe an Al Lowry could be a guy like that. Simon Katalichki could also, I think, take some big steps for sure. Landon Amerheim, I'd say, is like a home run swing, if you think about it. Joe Aginla is another one. That's the thing about this year's draft class, is like there are a lot of guys where, do I see them as NHL players as they are today? Not really. But with a few years of good development, definitely could see something working out. And that's what makes this year so interesting, is I think there's a lot of those guys. So if you're looking for players who are like clear and obvious shots now, there might not be that many, right? But otherwise, no. I gave the question to you even though you're a hockey guy because I knew you'd get a ton of caterwauling by the Fantanalites in his live stream. I don't know what caterwauling means. There's a word that I have never seen before, but I'm going to look it up. Shrill howling. Yeah, perhaps. Perhaps. I mean, look, I mean, I learned a long time ago that screaming and moaning and complaining about things you can't control is meaningless, even though I find myself doing that in hockey a lot, and I probably shouldn't as much as I do. I try to, just roll with it. Things are the way they are, and I just try to roll with it. And the AI thing, it's like technology is going to change. Things are going to change. If you really don't agree with it, you don't have to use it. Like if you want to be a musician, you can still make music, and it is still possible to become popular to making music, But also, if you're a good songwriter, if you want to farm out demos, I think AI could be the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? Think about it. I'm a songwriter. I don't know how to play the guitar. I don't know how to play drums. I don't know how to play any of these instruments. And I don't like how like MIDI guitar sounds, right? Like digital plugins that replicate a guitar. I agree. I personally hate how those things sound. So if you are a person who is like, I want to be a songwriter, or I want to do this or this or this, think of how much more productive you can be, right? Like, it's one thing to think that record industry people are just going to go, we don't need songwriters anymore. We can just farm out songs through AI. That's fine. Some people might do that, but like there are multiple ways of achieving a goal. And I think good songwriters are going to utilize tools to their advantage that they have. And they'll be better for it. Right. It's an interesting thing, right? If you want to make that argument, be a Luddite, fine. That's legit. But you're gonna lose. Like, what do you think is gonna happen? Like, every AI data center that's being built is all just gonna black out, and all of the models will die overnight. I bet you by now, as of today, and every day that passes, it gets worse. That would be worse for how the world works today. I bet that would be a worse outcome based on things like that. But I think at the end of the day, this AI thing, I hate that we call it that, because we've had machine learning. It's just really good machine learning. Like, machine learning has just taken leaps, but we've had machine learning forever, But like, we still, like, think about it. We still have books. We still have the radio. We still have TV shows. We still have all of these things. It's not like it killed all of these things. It just changes the circumstances. That's all. And you can either roll with it and be cool with it and see where it goes and mess around. Or you could go no and cross your arms and call it a day. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. I've met lots of people in my life who are like that. And that's fine, right? But then when you're older, you're kind of forfeiting the right to go, boy, I missed out on a lot. And I don't know how a lot of things work in the world, and it scares me and I don't like it. Because it's just here to stay, man. There might be some bumpy road ahead, but like there was with the internet. I remember the .com bubble, man. I was old enough to remember it, but I was not old enough to really understand the ramifications. But I remember it, and it was crazy. But at the end of the day, if anything, this is a better situation than that, because at least the companies that are in this so-called bubble are making money. Back then, some of the biggest companies in the world were like pre-revenue, because like the Google ad universe hadn't really been fully fleshed out yet at that point. And so there was this a massive amount of speculation on like pets.com. Go look up the pets.com story. That's the traditional one. It's hilarious. Do you think there's a chance Preston falls out of round 2? I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked. Lafreniere does have a lot of points in his last 10 games. Good for him. Any quality top 6er NHLer you were wrong about? Well, let's see. And also, like, yeah, Jake Sanderson is a good example of a guy who I think has really evolved since he was draft eligible. But also, like, Sanderson is just another one where I had a gut feeling that, like, a good defensive player like that was pretty valuable. And I remember at the time with Ottawa, it's like he wouldn't have been my pick, but he's acceptable there. I get it. And I love Stützle. But let's see. 2020 draft would have been 6 years ago. So these guys are under 24, under 23. I mean, Wyatt Johnston didn't play. I think that one is just unbelievable work by Dallas. Matt Nyes for Toronto. Again, I did not have him ranked, but Toronto did unbelievable homework on him. Gauthier is one probably I'd throw in there as well. I mean, Jackson Blake, even Carolina is surprised at how far he's come. Top 6 guys. Maybe Will Cully, if that counts. But that's another thing where it's like he has a role that really works for him. And so I'm trying to do a better job of like identifying those types of players and valuing them, especially outside the first round, rather than swing on just pure upside and value all the time. But it's really hard not to do that, honestly. And the other thing too is a lot of these guys get drafted before I'd be ready to take them. But, you know, it's like you get to pick one guy and then you got to wait, right? So almost by virtue of the nature of the game, you're kind of putting yourself in a tough spot. Justin Sourdif has 30 points this year. I didn't even realize he was playing. Good for him. I always like Justin Sourdif. I'm glad he is getting an opportunity. And of course, it's with a smart team like Washington. It's a tricky thing as a scout. You're not hurting in your opinion, so I appreciate you answering the question. It takes a lot of humility, and it's why I enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, of course. Like, I obviously can be, I don't know what word you would use, you know, defensive for sure. I put a lot of work into this, and it's not a perfect art. I think anybody who pretends that there's a level of certainty in this is not experienced enough to understand the mechanics of all of this. And there's a lot of things that you can't control. And that's why a lot of scouts, at least in the NHL, default to who will an NHL coach play so I can keep my job. And I understand that. You know, does that make it the best way to do the job? I don't think so, but that's the way it's done. And so like over the years I've learned, like just watching players, I think if you want to evaluate talent, I see it as like you're the finance guy, right? It's like analyzing stocks. If you know a ton about the banking industry, and you know when to involve yourself in investing in bank companies, but someone then comes to you and is like, well, how did you miss on NVIDIA, you idiot? Like, how could you possibly not see NVIDIA? And you're like, it's just not my wheelhouse. Like, I don't know. I have my thing. I know what I like. I know what can be successful if I'm running a fund, and people trust me, right? And maybe I'm not making the perfect decision in that moment, but I know my place, right? I have my experience. I've built on my experience. I've gotten to where I am. Sure, I can look at a thing like NVIDIA and maybe learn a thing or two about tech, but if it's just not your wheelhouse, you know, if you work for a hedge fund where all you do is short stocks all day, you know exactly what you're looking for, but it doesn't mean that you're going to know everything about everything. You know, it's why I don't think that there's such a thing as like a consolidated NHL draft ranking. It's why I'm always laughing when I see people go, Malte Voss was 17th on Columbus's list. Like, what the hell is that all about? And I'm going, well, they are prioritizing things in their own way, man. Like this is how it works. So I think you do have to have some level of transparency about what you're comfortable with, the type of way you see the game, and what you're looking for, while also being open to like different ideas. right? Like if I'm working on a team and I'm going, I really want to draft player X in the 3rd round, and someone comes to me and is like, well, but do you think there's a chance he doesn't play? Because we already have 3 right wingers in the system that play like that, and we think that they're a decent shot. So what about drafting a center that is big and mobile and we think can eat some minutes one day because we need more centers in the system? I'll sit there and I'll listen to that argument, and it obviously depends on the player, but I'll go, fair enough, right? Fair enough. I'm not going to scream at you about that. I'm not going to call you an idiot, and at the end of the day, I've had my way, you get your way. This is how it works, right? You got to work together. It's just as long as it's like everybody's cohesive of what the strategy is, and like, but that strategy can be very different from team to team, in my opinion. So it does make it really hard to be like, well, you nailed this one because this team did what you thought was right, but does Alexis Lafreniere have a different career playing in LA, and does Quinton Byfield have a different career playing in New York? I'd argue if you flip those two around, they both have much better careers at this point, right? It doesn't change the fact that they were both like good players at 17 years old, but like the trajectory has been very different relative to expectations, right? So it's all very contextual and nuanced, and it's very difficult to say, well, this is the right call and this was the wrong call when you have no control over the situation at all. Like really good players have not worked out for one reason or another. And it's not that easy to just boil it down and say, well, this guy should, Anyway, would a player like Suzuki be tough to evaluate in a draft setting? Was he overlooked, or was there a ton of development post-draft? I don't remember much about Suzuki in his draft year. I think he's gotten a lot more skilled from what I remember. But his game was always very sort of two-way oriented. I think the fact that it's kind of similar to how I feel about like a Tynan Lawrence. Like Suzuki, maybe there's a bit of a comparison there where it's like if you have Tynan Lawrence playing with Cole Caulfield, he'll score a lot more. Because Cole Caulfield can score. And I love Cole Caulfield. So with Suzuki, from what I remember, the two-way instincts were always there. The work rate was always there. He's a really smart player all the time, always. That's great. And the situation they have put him in, even with Slavkovsky on that line too, they all fit a really good role that complements one another. Like, I think that is the difference between a bad team, bad coach, and a good team with a good coach. Like Martin St. Louis, I think has been one of the hiring of Martin St. Louis might be underratedly one of the most fascinating and strong choices a team has made, that relative to the risk and the perception that I've ever seen. He was a AAA coach at like the U13 level, and they called him up to the NHL, and they've stuck with him. Montreal hasn't gone deep in the playoffs, under St. Louis, but you can see the progress and the growth in all of their players and the strategy with that team, what they're trying to do. So in that case, yeah, I think there is a lot of good development going on there. So yeah, I see that. Will Dubas get the Sioux Greyhound chase Reid? Probably not. Probably not. Unless he picks first overall, which who knows. Maybe he'll pick Colin Fitzgerald or Callum Croskery could be a Penguins pick. I could see Callum Croskery being a Dubas guy mid-rounds to later rounds for sure. The difference between you and NHL scouts is that if you make a mistake, there's no repercussions. But if an NHL scout makes a mistake, they get fired. I mean, that's true most of the time, right? That's true most of the time. But like, yeah, that is fair. I mean, but that's also why I track my own guys I would have drafted, right? Like, that's why I look at it and go, I would rather have this guy, and I'm going to stick to it. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it really doesn't. Like I look back at the Matthew Nyes pick, and I go, I think we looked at it together, and it's like, I don't think realistically speaking, any other player would have been a better pick at the time, reasonably, right? I don't know. But you're right. It's why scouts are safe with their picks. I 100% get it. I totally get it. I understand that. The thing for me is like, I just don't think that that's a very healthy environment, right? Like, I just don't think that's a very healthy environment. I think that you kind of get rewarded by taking a lot of risks And playing it safe in the context of the NHL draft, a lot of the time you just end up with players who are behind the curve, and you're just praying they catch up and going, he's 6'3", and it's a good bet because he's got the size to play anyway, and it just didn't work out, right? Like, that just seems like a crutch to me. But you're right. You do get to keep your job. I get it. Like, I get that. I just see it differently, and I'm not going to sit here and complain about the way the world is. I'm sitting here for a reason, right? I'm not working in an office for the, Columbus Blue Jackets, right? For a reason, many reasons. And I just see things differently. That's all. Are you worried about Preston then? No. I mean, if that's based on the conversation about the CHL, I mean, I am worried about Preston for a few reasons, but in terms of, like, again, I watch the player, and I think if Mathis Preston were on the Medicine Hat Tigers, he'd be also scoring in bunches, right? Like, that's the thing. He played on Spokane. The guys he was playing with were not a fit for him. In Vancouver, that also, like, the team is not very good in Vancouver, right? They've got Ryan Lynn, and that's great. I think Preston with Vancouver, like, you still see what he's capable of. And I think that if Preston were on the Everett Silvertips or the Medicine Hat Tigers, I don't think we would be talking about him in the same breath. And I think that, again, like, I look at a player beyond their production, and I look at how they generate production, and I worry about that more. And I have concerns about Preston for sure. But I think with the fundamental talents and everything that he's got, I think that his trajectory could be extremely positive. I wonder if a solution for the CHL is legitimately to draft guys a year younger. Well, they are doing that, I think. I think eventually the Q and the O are going to lower their draft age to match the WHL. But I think that's just like that doesn't, again, like, think about the numbers behind this, right? The older players who are more physically mature, grown up, they're older, they're going to leave to college. They're going to play NCAA at 18, 19 years old, right? So those guys, who's going to replace those guys? 15-year-olds? The league will get worse. Guys who are good at 17 in those leagues will score a lot because they're playing 15-year-olds more, not 16-year-olds, not 19-year-olds, not 20-year-olds, but a lot more children. So to me, that's not a recipe for it's going to get better. Like, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And if I'm an agent, I am absolutely advising my guys to say, we need to get you in the NCAA as quickly as possible. So let's focus on school, get you finished with your classes as quickly as possible. If you care about hockey, and we get you into the NCAA, right? And honestly, look, here's another thing too, right? The last game we tracked in Mathis Preston was the worst one I've done by far. And at a point, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? But the Vancouver Giants had just finished. It was the third game of a 3-3. 3 straight days playing 3 games, 2 of them on the road and in different cities. And it was the game I tracked was the third one of 3. And Preston looked gassed. And for a while, I was like, what the hell's going on? And then I looked at the schedule and I went, oh my God, yeah, it's the third game of 3 in a row. Like, I'd be gassed too, because he also played 22 minutes at even strength in that game, just coming back from injury. So, like, I feel like any hockey player would be a little bit tired if you were in your third game back from injury and you're playing a third of the game at even strength, let alone special teams, including 3-on-3. And you're playing for the Vancouver Giants, and the expectations are humongous on you. I'd probably be a little tired too. And in the NCAA, you don't have that problem. Like, you don't, the weight of the schedule is significantly lower. And I think that that's important at that age. And so for me, it's like, yeah, let's get you playing fewer but more meaningful games in college at a higher level against better players before you're drafted, so you can really show what you're capable of. Like, that would always be my angle, right? I'm way happier to see Tynan Lawrence in college than in the USHL based on what I saw in the USHL. You know? And same thing with, it's been really interesting watching the CHL guys from last year, like Reshny and Martone and all those guys. playing in the NCAA this year and then going back and watching guys like Zanon or Desnoyers stuck in the CHL and not in college. To me, it's night and day. And I think that if they lower the draft age, which I think they're gonna, it's not gonna make it better. And I think it's gonna, like, again, like the shifting is going on year over year now. And I might be overcorrecting on how much I think the CHL's taken a step back, but we'll have to see. I think it's hard to tell right now. Which player do you think has the most talent but the least numbers to show for it? Mathis Preston. Where would you move the Ottawa Charge? Rumors are they might move. I mean, my first instinct is Halifax. I think Halifax with a PWHL team would be sick. I would love that. I mean, I'm biased. I love Halifax. You know, they put a team in Seattle. I think that's great. Vancouver desperately needed a team, and it's great that they have one too. It would be unfortunate if Ottawa lost a team. I wouldn't like that. That'd be too bad. But man, a fun team in Halifax, I think, would be great. I would have to wonder about the travel expenses if you put a team in like LA, but LA comes to mind. I'm trying to think, like, what NHL team would also do a really good job sharing the ice with a PWHL team? Like Carolina might. I just don't know if that's financially very viable right now. I would say like, yeah, I would just love to see a team in Halifax like that. And I bet they would sell out every game and it would be a tremendous experience. And it's not that far away. It's a pretty quick flight from most of the PWHL markets. Caden Lidstrom, what happened? Injuries, man. He's been hurt off and on forever. Reid and Morgan Riley. That's the one we saw in the Discord server when we did the Reid game the other day. Is I said, like, I think that's a Morgan Riley type guy, and I think that's the guy that I'm comfortable with. I forgot until you said that, but yes, I think Reid and Morgan Riley are a much better comp. Which draftee is NHL ready? Like 100% ready. Which draftee do you not want rush to the NHL? I mean, I want McKenna in the NHL. Personally, I want him tested. I want him being the guy. It's like this. Welcome to the show, man. You've worked your way here. Welcome to the show. I think going back to college would be just a recipe for a mistake. Him and Stenberg, I think I'd love to see in the NHL next year. Honestly, there's a small part of me that thinks like an Albert Smits might be there, but I don't think there's a certainty there. I mean, maybe Chase Reid too. Something like that. I'm guessing 20 to 30 picks this draft will be more experimental than usual. I don't see much on any draft ranking becoming NHLers. Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be an interesting year. I mean, last year it was a little bit disappointing because it was just kind of like, meh. Like that was the sentiment I got. But here it's like, yeah, it's interesting. I don't know about confidence in all these guys, but it's interesting. You know, I don't know. Where do you see Villeneuve realistically being drafted? Does he make the first round? I mean, if he doesn't make the first round, I'm trading down and down and down because I love Xavier Villeneuve. I mean, it's possible he misses the first round, especially if he doesn't play for the rest of the year. But I would say, so I think someone will take him in the 20s. If like Washington picks him, I'll go, yeah, duh, of course. You know, I don't know, maybe. But it'll be fun. He'll be wherever he goes. They better appreciate him and let him fly because he could be. I think he's one of the few guys in this draft class where I watch him and I go, there are things he does in his game where he could be a star. Maybe a little frustrating, but I think he's got star power. And there aren't that many guys in this class that I think have star power that's identifiable today, right? There's a lot of really solid players, but like McKenna, Villeneuve, Preston. Those guys, all I look at and I go, those guys could be stars. You'll see them on TV a lot. But a lot of guys, I think you might not see them as much, but the fans who have them will really love those players. Yes, I agree. Click like. I hope this stream has been awesome. Survivor thoughts. I love this season. Survivor 50 has been amazing. It's been one of the best seasons, probably the best one of the new era since the pandemic. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but it's just getting better. Obviously, it was previewed, so it's not a spoiler, but they swapped tribes last night.
And I really like the mix that has come out. I mean, pretty much everybody on the cast I find interesting and very, very curious. I think it's a really, really intriguing one. I can't wait to see what happens. I mean, last night there was one thing where I was like screaming at the TV, like, what the hell are you thinking? And it had to do with Coach. But that is not unusual considering how he tends to behave. Most annoying commercial on Canadian TV right now for you. I don't see a lot of TV ads, but the most annoying commercials on TV that I see are for Quest Trade, where they usually air them during the World Juniors, where it's like they talk about like how dumb you are if you have a financial advisor, and it's like the one that always sticks in my head is the teacher and the student in a university lecture hall, and it's, anyway, you'll know it if you've seen it, and I hate that one. Do you think we'll see AI in gaming, particularly in RPGs, where you can get unique and endless interactions with your favorite NPCs? Yes, and I think that'll be a good thing. I think AI and RPGs could be, and just game development in general, could be a massive, massively positive thing. Like, I am sitting here, again, like, one thing I think I try to do, and again, if you don't know, one of my sort of hobbies is investing. And what I'm trying to figure out is who are the companies that are identifying a good use case for AI that they're using and creating products that actually make a lot of sense and are beneficial as a consumer that really, really work. And I think there's no company doing it yet, but like gaming and being able to create like sort of infinitely replayable environments that are different but cohesive is gonna be really, really useful and really, really, really cool. And I think also, like, I personally, another thing I sit around thinking about sometimes is, boy, I can't wait for the day where I can vibe code a video game. And I know that sucks if you're a video game developer watching this or something, or you're a computer coder or whatever. But like, for me, and I'm not you, like, that's a good thing. Like, I honestly, like, one of the things I've been doing in my spare time, it's a secret project, but I guess I can say it. I've been building a social media app, which a year and a half ago, I never in a million years would have ever thought that I would have done. I built the Clanker Ranker, right? Like, it is a product in a way that I never could have built on my own. And, you know, it's not a complicated tool, but it increases a person's capability to do things by, I would argue, an exponential margin. Like, I've been learning how to code for a few years now for this work. Like, a lot of my pipelines and data structures are all coded and all everything, right? And, you know, APIs and everything. And that took a long time to learn. And then as soon as LLM coding got better, I have never bothered to worry about it since. I can parse through code. I can parse through JavaScript. I can parse through Python. I can parse through R code and go, yeah, I could see where something's wrong. I can see where this or this or this or whatever, or I might want to tweak this thing here. And that's very handy. That's a good skill to have. And that's what I mean. Like, if you have an expertise level, AI is a lot more powerful. And I think gaming, obviously it's not there today, but eventually, I think especially with something like RPGs, it could be really, really intriguing. And a good writer, right? Like, someone who's a really good storyteller and a good writer can work with AI in really good ways. And AI can suggest things. You know, if I think there's a big, we'll say this and move on. I think there's a huge difference between a person who doesn't know how to write a book going to an AI program and going, write me a book, or a person who knows nothing about finance going to an AI model and go, what stock should I put my money in? And then going with that response and doing it. That's a mistake to me. But a financial analyst who knows what they're doing and knows how to follow up on information and prompting is much more valuable. A person who can write a book and is capable of writing a book and knows how stories should work and is very creative on their own, AI is a massive productivity helper. workshopping ideas. I have an idea for a book that's like this, but I feel it's missing a dimension. What do you suggest, right? And then you can maybe play around from there, right? And if you say, well, it's just taking ideas from other people, well, I hate to break it to you, but pretty much all art is derived from previous people's work. That's just how art works, right? You know, so unfortunately, that's just how it goes. But I think it's an interesting thing. I think it's an interesting thing that we're in the early stages, but in a few years, I think the potential for the really optimistic view for me of AI stuff is I think that for individuals, it's going to be very easy for individuals to start their own businesses and keep them lean. I think it will be much, much easier for people to do what they want with their life and be creative about it and pick up skills that otherwise they never otherwise would have even bothered to try to learn, right? And I'm excited about that proposition. It's going to suck getting there. People are going to lose their jobs. You know, it's probably going to suck. It already is sucking. But at the end of the day, for an individual, you know, some of the best things might come out of it in your life, right? You know, how many people at Amazon lost their jobs in the 2001 market correction after the bubble popped, and then went on to be early parts of Meta, right? Or, you know, go and be a graphic designer for Pinterest, or a marketing director for, you know, insert your app here, right? All of that is possible because of the issues that happened, right? It sucks when it happens, but at the end of the day, hopefully, ideally, things turn out better, depending on your definition of better. Why is Kindle so good for his age? Because he is so smart and he's being given a good opportunity, and he's really, really smart. Did I mention that? It's rumored that the Canes are readying an 8-year extension for Nikishin. A lot of fans might have inflated expectations. Really? But I think he's a top 4 guy if you play him with a responsible partner with Slavin. I mean, if you play me with Slavin, I'd probably look okay. But yeah, I mean, that's fair. I always felt like Nikishin, bottom 4 defenseman with a good shot. Sure, right? Been impressed with his playoff hand. Sure, whatever. Fair enough. I mean, 8 years, if it's a good number, you may as well. Have you seen the list of the CHL's best 50 players of the last 50 years? No, I have not. What's Montreal's strategy? Sticking with a long-term rebuild, drafting high upside guys, a nice mix of upside guys, trusting a coach who has 0 NHL experience and sticking with him because he has a very developmental mindset and you're getting results out of that. And also now Montreal is kind of thinking they're turning a corner, which they are. So they went out and got Noah Dobson. They went out and got Philippe Danault again. Like the Montreal Canadiens, like, I think they have a really good guiding strategy of, initially it was, yep, we need to tear it down. But we need to make sure we have the pieces in place that when we start constructing something from the basement, it's going to be a good long-term developmental environment that in 5 years, and not expecting it in 2, we're going to be in the playoffs. And look at them now, right? Like, I think that's their strategy, and it's worked really well. I love watching the Habs, man. I love watching them. They're a really fun team to watch now. They're really interesting, and I think they've done, by and large, a lot of very intriguing things. And they got Ivan Demidov. That helps. Martin St. Louis hire was inspired by Brindamore? For sure. Yeah, fair enough. Are NMCs too strong? No. I think star players should have the right to sign a contract where they have the privilege of not going anywhere. I think that's perfectly allowable. I think that if anything, we should prevent GMs from making bad mistakes. I think we should be better about that. I think when GMs give their scouts fewer picks, they're going to be safer with them. That's true too. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the Canes draft a lot so they can take bigger swings. 100% agree. Do you think the NHL teams see the CHL still top? I mean, look at draft rankings. Yes. Just look at, like, how many CHL guys are in Corey Proman's top 10? They absolutely see it as the best situation. The Canada charge. Yeah, exactly. Which prospect has the best transition game, and which team do you think is best in transition? I can't tell you. I'd have to look up the data for that transition data. Maybe Edmonton because they have Connor McDavid. But this year, I mean, my best transition players overall probably Lawrence, Bjork, especially offensively. What about Smits? Smits might be up there. Nope, that didn't work. Not so much Smits. Offensively, you could also put McKenna in that conversation. Elton Hermanson offensively is sneaky pretty good. Stenberg? Maybe, kind of, sort of. What about Malte Gustafsson? Malte Gustafsson's pretty good. Gustafsson is actually very good now that I see it. A really good passer. Yeah, like Jack Hextall's pretty good. But yeah, Tynan Lawrence is a very good example, I think. In a projectable way, too. Any love for Nikita Klepov? Yeah, he's fine. He's a rambunctious, skilled guy. I think in the right, he could be a middle six scoring winger. Sure, I guess he's got a bit of rambunctiousness to him. Do you think Teddy Niederbach gets some eyes on him thanks to Stenberg? I've really liked Niederbach when I've seen him playing with Stenberg. I would not be surprised if someone gave him a go. I think he's looking pretty good in the SHL. I'd give him a go. Do you think Adam Valentini could become something and maybe a chance in the first round? Yes, I think so. I like Adam Valentini. The last game I did of him was really, really good. I think he is more of a physical guy than I think he gets credit for. People are I think they're pretty down on Valentini because I think they expected more high-end offense out of him in college. But again, you have to think about it like he's in college, right? He's a college hockey player right now at 17, which is, again, something we did not have prior to like 2 or 3 years ago, more often than not. And I look at Valentini and I do wonder about his ability to generate speed, create gaps from opponents with the puck on his stick. But the skill level is there. The shot is there. What else? Like his physicality is really good. It's just a matter of like, is he a third line winger, a bottom six winger in the NHL? And where do you draft that? I think that's a possibility. And maybe a team will draft him in the first round. But I mean, if the rankings are to be believed and he's a 4th or 5th or 6th round pick, then that's an easy one for me to do because I've really last few games I've seen of him have been pretty good. What's the biggest misconception about scouting or prospects of the draft as a whole? That there is a set and defined way of ranking who is best. If you saw NHL team draft lists, your head would explode. I've said that a billion times, but it's true. NHL teams see things very differently. There's no such thing as a consensus, in my opinion. I mean, there is if you want it, but it's not like obvious, right? It's not clear cut. It's a consensus assembled from a variety of different opinions. And also at some point it comes down to luck, right? A lot of the time it just comes down to luck. You can do what you can, but it just comes down to luck. But yeah, I mean, I think the misconception is largely, at least from the public side, is like, you know, there's a lot more to it than who is good, right? Isn't AI in games technically a thing? Like AI is already programmed into games. Yes, that's true. Is it called Brad Lambert and Friends? Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, AI it is literally in video games. Artificial intelligence it's been baked into video games forever. But I think like generative AI is the difference now. And I think generative AI tools for lay people are what is different. Like if eventually, and I cannot imagine this won't be possible eventually, but if I can sit down at my desk and, you know, I'm sitting here at my desk building a social media app, but if I am sitting at my desk and I'm making a video game in 3 years, I fully would believe that. And then there's 10,000 people like me out there who are like, I want to make a video game. And then there's some marketplace like Steam for games like that. And a couple of them really pop off. And an individual who put this game together using some sort of platform that probably will be very, very valuable, and they take a cut of sales, like, that's a business that probably will do very well. No matter how much you hate AI, does that mean that making video games the traditional way will die? No, I don't think so. Just like how drawing isn't dead, radio isn't dead, books aren't dead. It's just going to be different. It's another way to do something, right? You know, if you're a painter, I could see why you'd be critical of people who draw on an iPad. But I can also see why people using an iPad would be like, why would I paint? That's so much work, you know? Have you seen Bill Zanall since he returned from injury? We did a video room on him. I have seen him. I still really like him. He's a good player. And I feel like, again, like, I don't think he's anything more than a third line NHL center, but I think in the playoffs, you're going to love having him. And I don't think that's changed from seeing him this year. The comments on his game, on his video room were like, oh, this guy looks like he sucks. But I don't think you're getting a finesse player there, really, at all. Victor Johansson has 5 points in his last 5 games, all assists, no fake points with goals. Whoa, amazing. Elite prospect. What's Bill's list? It's my ranking as it sits right now. Thoughts on the Schmaltz contract? 8x8, right? I think it's fair. He's one of the guys I'd be targeting in free agency, and I maybe would be willing to offer more than 8. So good pickup for Utah. Teddy Swims got a lot of hate online for pointing out that he used AI as a songwriting tool and as a way to test out musical ideas, but clearly he's on the same plane as, yeah, I mean, that's fair, right? Like, I think that that's okay. I see the concern with regards to like the environmental impact of AI. I understand that, you know, but there's environmental concerns about everything. And I think, if anything, the advent of AI creates a need in the market for more efficient power generation, right? Like, who knows? Maybe the power requirements for AI are what puts advanced power generation technology that's beyond fossil fuels over the hill, right? Like, you've got Facebook investing in nuclear power plants, right? How long have people desperately been begging for nuclear power? And if AI is something that allows for more nuclear power demand, then so be it. And if those AI companies that are using those nuclear power plants as AI data centers, if they go under, then the power plants, what government would not go, oh, I'll buy a nuclear power plant that I didn't build and instead hook it up to the grid? Of course I'll do that. I didn't spend the money to build it. Like, if anything, it's good for governments that other companies, private companies, are building power plants that you think might go under one day. Because then you can buy them and then you just have a power plant. And they're nuclear, right? Like, it's not so bad. Why is Verhoff slipping on your list? Yeah. I mean, I just did a game of him. I did a game of everybody else ahead of him. And it's more a matter of like other guys, I think, showcasing more now in their game. I think Verhoff is an interesting growth case. I love parts of his game. There's definitely parts of his game I really love. He's got a very good mind offensively in the offensive zone, making plays. His puck management is still really shaky, and I've been waiting for that to get a little bit better. But he's very mobile, and I like that. He's a very good sort of stick defenseman. You know, there's nothing really wrong, right? I guess if that's what you're asking, there's nothing really wrong with him. It's just a matter of like, a lot of good defensemen are available this year, and I see more that I trust in those other guys than him. But at the end of the day, could they all end up relatively similar? Like, they're all in the same tier for me. Oh, no, they're not. He's in a tier with Preston and Lynn, and I think that's reasonable. I just have seen more out of Reid, Gustafsson, and Schmitz slightly, where I feel a little more confident about their game as they are. All right, we got to get out of here. My voice is starting to go. What app inspired your social media app? I mean, in general, it's basically like if Reddit and Discord had a baby with Omegle, in a way, like specific topic based matchmaking, like discussion forums that pop in and out of existence, that are moderated and with an AI agent built in that can add context to those conversations, advertise products if you're talking about them. Like the idea basically is like you are interested in hiking and you live in California. You go to the website, you go, I want, the topic of discussion is hiking in California. And if you put that in and there's already a room that says hiking, it'll put you in there. Or if someone's talking about alpinism, it'll put you in there. And the rooms are small or big. They're limited to a small group, or they are limited to a room of 100 to allow for more direct conversation and avoid spam. And I mean, it is similar to Reddit, but it's not Reddit. It's like this stuff is you can't just like surf around the site, right? There's going to be no search function. It's more WhatsApp in a way, but like WhatsApp groups that are tailored and matchmaking. And essentially like you can just pop in and say, like the idea too, if you're a hockey person, is like, instead of like game threads in Reddit, which are, you have to refresh the page and all of that stuff, it would be more like a stream of consciousness, right? And people could be in there for a Montreal Canadiens game, and you could just type in Montreal Canadiens versus Toronto Maple Leafs or whatever, and it'll stick you in a room with people who also said Montreal Canadiens, and then just doing that at scale. So it's still like a beta thing. I'm not done yet. I'm at the stage where I'm showing it to friends and seeing where it goes. But I mean, it's inspired by Reddit, but it's it's more of like a hybrid of a few different platforms that fits a need that I think is kind of there. It's almost like temporary Discord servers that pop in and out of existence and are topical, and you are automatically matched with a topic that you're interested in. And then like you also have the opportunity to like bring in brands to do sponsored rooms, or premium users doing bigger events or whatever like that. So still in the process of making it, but it's coming along. And so far we're doing okay. One more question. Have you seen Magic's Dagenet this year? Yes. I have seen him a lot, not in a while. And Dagenet is one of those guys where if he goes in the first round, I would not be surprised, because I feel like a coach will play him. He's physical, he's fast-ish, he's big, he's got some skill, he goes. And he's got some skill. I just said that. He's all right. I like Dagenet. Do I think he's a super high ceiling guy? Not really, but I think the physicality in his game, the energy, it's all there. And that's good. I think the tech-fearing types hate to get actual lead, but sometimes shining sunlight on potential eventually requires going actual. Yeah, fair enough. SMRs start going up everywhere. I mean, maybe. I think that's a very unproven technology, but the demand for power is not going to go anywhere. And I mean, judging by current events, that demand might trend more towards renewables pretty quickly, if it isn't already. One question: who's the most Hans? Who's Hans? Hans coded player? Hans like Hans Moleman? I don't know, because I don't know what Hans means. Anyway, I gotta go. We're already running very late. I gotta get on the bike and do a workout for the day, and then make myself some food. So, thanks for coming. We had a really great turnout today. This was a lot of fun. Oh, Habs. Okay, so Habs coded. Good question. From now on, they're Hans coded. The Habs are Hans coded. Well, the Habs are probably drafting in the back half of the first round, and I'm just trying to think. Like, if I'm a Montreal Canadian fan, who would I love to see wearing a Habs jersey? I mean, having Villeneuve would be a lot of fun. And having Hudson and Villeneuve on the same team would be hilarious, but I don't think that's likely. Habs Hextall maybe, but that might be a little optimistic, a little too early. Simas Ignatavicius maybe if the Habs go really deep. Ryan Lynn. I think Ryan Lynn could be a really nice pickup for the Habs if he slips a little bit and the Habs get him in the later first round. I think that could be a really good one. Who do the Habs typically pick recently? I mean, they kind of go all over the world. They don't really care. If Elton Hermansen slips, he'd be a lot of fun as a Hab, but I don't think that's likely. I don't know. Lynn is the most attractive one. The most fun might be Villeneuve. But yes, thank you very much for joining me. We're going to run. This was a lot of fun. We'll be back Monday night, 8 p.m. Again, video room is available for subscribers now. It'll be made public tomorrow. And we're going to be doing more of those. And then it's report season. And those, again, will be available for subscribers early. We'll do office hours tomorrow for a lot of the day. It's going to be a good time. And go Team Audi on Sunday. I disagree. I just want Oscar Piastri to finish the race. That's all I want. But enjoy. Yeah, if you're an F1 fan, enjoy China. It's going to be fun. Be safe, be nice. It's fun. And we'll see you around. All right. Thanks again. Au revoir. Oh, AJ's going to be here. All right. So maybe you don't have to show up. But anyway, bye.